asking me to be rational. That is something that I know I cannot do. Believe me, I wish I could just wish away my feelings, but I can't. Darth Vader has stolen the keys to my coveted inventory. But hark, are we in luck, Yoda? Is that my Hanna from TrueSpot I see? And it appears he has brought warriors with him to save our technicians valuable time. Perhaps he can tell us how to find the keys to the galaxy and, our spaceships.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it's a great honor to present you with this next panel. This is the Unapplied Time at the Dealership panel, and it features some of the big superstars of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, including Mike Hanna, who is the CEO and founder of TrueSpot. Mike, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hey, Ted. Excited to be back. Thanks for having me.
Mike, excited to talk about this topic, and I'm so grateful, Mike, that we were able to secure some of the folks who are on here. Let me introduce them to the roundtable right now. They are Sarah Vantine from Quantum 5. We've got Scott Gregg from Tucson Subaru, Shawn Kingery from the Step One Automotive Group, and Randy Brenckman from Randy Brenckman Solutions. So if I may, Sarah, let me come to you with the very first question. In your opinion, Sarah, what are some of the biggest items which waste time in a dealership?
Well, Ted, one of the biggest pieces that customers consistently complain about is being on hold or not knowing what the status of their vehicle is. So in the BDC, that's often a call that we receive quite a bit, where the customer is trying to figure out the status of their vehicle, whether it's in the service drive, whether it's waiting for the repair to be finished, or if it's on hold for authorization. So speaking about TrueSpot, wouldn't it be great if you had the ability, and the BDC had the ability, and the service advisors to be able to see what was going on with the car at all steps of the process? That speeds up the communication process with our consumers, so they're able to real time maybe answer those questions or get it to the appropriate person to help answer the questions. But it all starts with having access to things like your DMS, looking for the reps to be able to check on the statuses, have consistent and clear communication with the service advisors and the parts team. So that minimizes the amount of time that the customer is on hold.
Yeah, great feedback, Sarah. Thank you so much for that. Scott, in your opinion, some of the biggest time wasters back at the dealership?
Some of the biggest time wasters would definitely be looking for cars in the parking lot, keys inadvertently misplaced or hung up incorrectly, or even occasionally mistagged. Sometimes the tag that's on the key is not what the advisor puts in the DMS. So a lot of time wasted there. Also, occasionally the car will be pulled in by the technician. He doesn't clock on the ticket. The advisor doesn't know who has the car, where the car is. So they're having to walk around. And we've got a pretty big lot here and a couple of shops, and it can be very tedious trying to find out where your car is. And same thing when they come to pick it up at night. Maybe somebody already pulled it up front, but nobody notated that. They're in the back looking for it. The car's up front. So all of those things really tend to be big time sinks.
And Scott, I got to think back, because as long as we've been in the car business, Scott, this has been, an age-old problem.
It definitely has. It's there's lot locators and everything else, and they're only as good, garbage in, garbage out. They're only as good as the information is put in. So if somebody puts the wrong tag number on, or they failed to put in the information, maybe when they moved the car or something, then you're right back to square one. And like you said, the same problem we've had for years and years and years.
Now, Mike, Scott oversees one big dealership in Tucson, and Sarah has overseen a dealership of a three dealership group. But I can't even imagine, Mike, what Shawn Kingery goes through, overseeing 20-some rooftops. Shawn, what's your perspective on that?
Well, I can jump on what Sarah said, and I can certainly jump on what Scott said. But, our facilities, because, we sell so many vehicles, we have off-site parking for new, used. We have centralized recon in 3 of our facilities. And as Ted, as you know, we're building a monster centralized recon facility that's going to be all encompassing one housing for the entire Florida market, not forgetting Georgia and the Alabama markets. But the time saved and unapplied time. I mean, the techs walking, hitting the remote. And by the way, the car's dead. And, for our 5 or now 6 FCA stores or Stellantis stores, guys, that panic button doesn't work until after the PDI is done. So on the new car prep, you're hunting for cars that you can't find. And by the way, as Randy said earlier, finding that one Toyota Corolla out there when it's white, there's a lot of Toyota Corollas. There's a lot of red Dodge Ram trucks. So the time you can save, if you could actually track a car from the time the vehicle gets dropped off from transport, forget the customer side, because Sarah covered that and Scott covered the other side. But on the new car prep and the used car prep, where you're looking for them on off-site parking, we rent 400 spots from the mall for 2 of our facilities. And again, if they know where the car is located and they get down to a certain spot, you can't quantify that in time, to be very honest.
Wow. A lot of things to think about there, Scott, and Shawn and Sarah. Randy, let me come to you. Unapplied time. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, I agree with everybody. I mean, these are real problems, age-old problems. Not to mention the cost involved with keys. Nowadays, it's not you go to a piece of metal and stick it in the machine and make some grooves in it. I mean, there's a lot of cost involved in it. But getting to unapplied time and wasted time, I think it all starts with a culture in the store, first of all. And my question is there a lack of clarity? I'm a huge believer in you've got to define purpose. Once you define the what, the how can become a lot easier. So unapplied time, as we would financially think about it with our technicians, what do you measure? What do you manage? Just your culture in general. If hours per RO averages and effective labor rate averages are what you push for in pay plans and meetings, expect unapplied time. Because as an advisor, if I've been asked to hit a certain hours per RO or hit a certain effective labor rate, defection gets me there faster than anything else. I've always said, if you want to raise your hours per RO and your effective labor rate, close on Saturdays, tell new customers to stay away for 4 or 5 years and overcharge anybody else who dares to come see you, and forget your MPIs. Because like for Scott in a Subaru franchise, which is a maintenance franchise, his numbers are never going to compare to a domestic store. So what are you after first? For me, it's about total hours. So total hours falls into what both Scott, Shawn, and Sarah have already said. What are we looking for today? If we are looking for total hours, have you defined purpose? Average tech wants to turn 10 hours an 8-hour day. I have 12 techs. Put a 0 behind the number of techs. My goal today is 120 hours. I have 4 advisors. Do they know to sell 30 hours today and close 30? Have we even gone that far? And then a piece of that is your first-time fill rate in parts. If you have a bad first-time fill rate, you're never going to get your hours. California, unapplied time in California is everything, because you have to pay a flat rate tech for hours not turned. Quick math, double minimum wage, $30 an hour for what they don't do. So you've got to be on top of hours every day. And what keeps you from doing that? Lost keys, can't find the cars, not selling the hours, poor fill rates in parts department. These are all things that will just absolutely tear you up.
So this this concept of lost time and wasted time, Randy, really carries through to the entire dealership, and there's some major consequences resulting from that.
Well, there's some real financial losses that you can actually see. Yeah. It's not speculation. Unapplied time. You go to unapplied time or adjusted cost of labor, depending upon what franchise statement you're looking at. You won't see a sale price. You'll just see a negative gross. Well, this is not calculated at effective labor or anything. This is calculated at tech time. So you can see how many hours did I not get paid. So basically you bought a part, which is an invisible part, which is tech time, and you've thrown that invisible time away at cost. So you take the number of hours that represents, multiply it by your effective labor rate and cut that in half, you can usually almost increase your net profit by 50% if you could just get rid of half of this unapplied time.
Mike, when you and I first spoke earlier this year, one of the first things I thought, and I mentioned it to you as well, is the time as accounting for labor, for the technician's time, and hunting down cars and so on. Now, Mike, you've come up with a solution that's actually in place right now that you've got at dealerships. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so and I love just hearing the feedback. And so one of the things that interesting for us is that time savings. And so as we have started really working on the fixed ops side with our solution, we originally were working on, and we still do on the front line. So we're tracking cars and keys and lot management and that, but time is not nearly, I'm not going to say it's not as valuable, but it's not as tracked. And so it becomes much more of an acute pain point in fixed ops when you're talking about tech time and those sort of things. So that's been a great learning for us, because we can apply the value of time a lot more specifically when we're talking to our service customers. But effectively, what we do is really try to solve a lot of these pain points and do it in a really seamless way. So we have a system, a campus-based system at real-time location of tracking cars and keys and tools and really anything else that moves at a dealership that could get legs and start to walk. We know where it's at. And so, it can be pinpoint accuracy down to the service bay level indoors and in relative, within a few parking spots or so outdoors. And so that gives that real-time visibility, not only to the location of where everything's at. If a service tech or somebody in BDC, a customer calls, hey, yeah, within seconds, I can see, hey, that car is actually in the wash bay. So, hey, we're probably 20 minutes from the car being able to pull up into the service drive and ready to come get it, sort of thing. So having that real-time visibility of where everything is at is kind of just the simple part of what we do. But then we like to take it a step further and really apply what we call geointelligence to the location. So if that car is in that particular service bay, then we know that it's being worked. How long has it been there? It's been there for 2 hours. If it leaves that service bay and then it goes into the wash bay, like I mentioned, then okay, if that's the last step in the process to be customer ready, then we can send an alert at that point in time to say, hey, this car is now ready, so the status can change. The service advisor can be alerted, and that customer hopefully doesn't have to call. They can be proactively alerted that, hey, this car is ready, and just reduce the call time, reduce the wait time, reduce the frustration, keep everybody much more attuned to what's going on. So that's really the cool part, I think, of what we do.
Now, Mike, a dealership group like Shawn Kingrey, that's in 3 different states with 20 some rooftops, and I know really likes the fact that they can visually track a lot of their KPIs and measurements. Are you able to help a group like that that's spread out, that's got so many locations and rooftops? And like Shawn said, they're putting in this huge mega recon center right now. It's a big project of theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the original pain points we solved. And so vehicle location, key location, whether it's off lots, even parking malls, we've set up even a solar system at a parking mall in Los Angeles for some of our dealer partners to be able to track those cars and keys when they're there on site, where they park the car, take the keys back to the dealership. But effectively, the system we build allows us to very quickly, easily deploy and solve basically any dealer use case as it relates to tracking cars and keys. And a lot of big dealer groups like Shawn mentioned, where there's big recon centralized systems where 10, 15, 20 rooftops could be pouring into that centralized recon system. So our recon product, as well as that car and key tracking, all works together really seamlessly to make everybody's life easier and really kind of transform, I think, how operations are flowing. And so the visibility, the accountability, it makes everybody's life a lot easier. We hear from a feedback perspective, like just not having to go through the hassle of trying to find the cars and keys. We know where they're at physically, we know where they're at in step and those sort of things. So
now, Shawn, I imagine there's a lot of questions that you might have for Mike, and not being in your shoes, I can't imagine what all those questions or some of those questions might be. But if you've got a couple of those questions, maybe this is an opportunity for Mike to answer that for us.
Yeah, I mean, so having never seen the product and obviously extremely intrigued in it, is it user friendly? How does an advisor use it? How does somebody like Sarah at the BDC use it? I mean, because they are getting status phone calls as much as we want to say they don't get them. They get them all the time. How user friendly is it for a used car manager to use it? How friendly is it for a general sales manager to use it for his new car inventory?
I love that question. That's one of my favorite questions because we, from a focus perspective on what and how to use the system, it has to be super easy. It has to be intuitive, has to be easy to use from all different perspectives. And so, there's so many jobs and so many people doing different things at a dealership. So just from the service advisor perspective, and I'll hold up maybe a visual aid here, it's just a hang tag. And, a lot of dealerships use these for car hats or other for us. And what we learned really quickly as we started to work on the fixed op side more and more was that the velocity is moving so fast. Cars are moving in and out a lot quicker than obviously you do on the front line. So how can you make it just keep it, KISS, super simple? And so this is one of the ways we do that, where this is basically a color red tied to a particular service advisor. 133 is the RO. So that's in DMS and whatever the case is. So this just goes on and off. It's completely reusable. And so the system is tied together already. So all the service advisor has to do to tag this and know where the car and keys at is just put this on the rearview mirror. And then if there's words I like to say, carabiners and grommets and these sort of things, but the keys can be hooked to another one here as well. So these can be tied together with a corresponding key service tag. And there's a little radio transponder that connects to both, so you know exactly where the key of the car's at. So that's the operational side. The other side is how easy is it to use. And so whether it's the iOS or the Android app, super simple, or the interface on the web. So just whatever and whoever is using the tool. If you're mobile, easy to use on a tablet. If you're at a desktop, and that's where typically you're sitting and running operations, then like a BDC person, for example, really easy, intuitive, and easy to find car and key just within seconds.
Wow, very strong. Sarah, I'm thinking you might have some questions from your perspective, because Shawn is right. Those status calls are still going to be coming in no matter what. As we sit here today, my car is in the shop, and I haven't got an update yet, Sarah. So I'm tempted to pick up the phone and call or text. So Sarah, what do you think, and what questions would you have?
There's been several that have come to mind just as Shawn and Mike were talking, and I have really two that I would love to get some feedback on. But first, so an organization like Shawn's, you're talking multi-store rooftops. Is there the capability where you'd have a centralized login for more than one location if you were part of an auto mall or a larger dealer group? And then my second question with that is, what kind of reporting do you have where you can gauge that efficiency amongst your stores? Can you see like, wow, look, my Toyota store is doing an excellent job at saving time versus, okay, I see over here my Mercedes-Benz store, there's something going on here when it goes from this process to this process. Does that make sense, or do I have an opportunity for improved efficiency? Those are really my two questions, Mike.
Yeah, those are good ones. Yeah, for sure. So the first one from larger dealer groups where you have multiple rooftops, and then you also have a corporate view from that perspective. Yeah, so there are, from a login perspective, and actually one of the features that's been requested for us for a while, really serving some of our larger dealer group customers, is just that. So that's actually releasing, this month in May. So you can have that tiered level access. And so absolutely being able to look at it more from a corporate view or store by store within the tool. And then the second, so I think that relates to reporting and looking at visually what's happening, having an understanding from whether it's reconditioning or other things as far as how long did I have that car, how long was it in each of those steps, identifying bottlenecks through that process. And so our reporting is quite robust. And there's different levels of the reporting, but being able to see those things and make improvements is really what it's all about at the end of the day. And so what's interesting about our system, and one of the things from a recon perspective applies to fixed ops as well, is being able to, because of that location, have real data that shows the time and step and the time through the process. And so because we can correlate location to an actual step, to a service bay, to a wash bay, to a third-party vendor like a body shop, for example, You get obviously real-time visibility to that, but you also have cars that don't get forgotten. So sometimes a car maybe gets parked out back because it's waiting for a part, and maybe that part showed up and somebody just completely forgot about it. The part's been there for 2 weeks, and I've heard that that story many times. The system is always tracking that because of that location. You have live views and real-time intelligence and alerts. That's keeping everybody on track, for lack of a better term, of moving cars through the system and taking and applying time instead of unapplied time, I guess.
Wow. And Mike, by the way, thank you for answering these questions. You're getting a couple of them from different scenarios, but I like it because these are the questions that, Shawn, our audience would have as well, right? Scott, Gregg, what are some of the thoughts that come to your mind?
A couple of things right off the bat. Are there any kind of limitations or range to, for instance, like we have a loan car fleet, and if I wanted these in our loan car so I could have an idea of where they're at, is there any kind of range or limitation as to how far you could track something? And then is there like a battery or what operates these? Is there potential for that to go dead at some point or?
Yeah, great question, Scott. On the range, so a couple things there. The system that I'm talking about now, they can give us we call hyper precision location, especially indoor, down to the service base. So that's a campus-based system. If a vehicle does leave the lot, especially for service loaners, we have GPS cellular solutions, so we can plug in an OBD2 device and be able to track loaner fleets and all of those wherever they go at any time. And when those come back, we can give alerts that, hey, they broke the geofence, this loaner car is back on campus and that sort of thing. So both of those, we have a multimodal technology suite to be able to, whatever the use case is, we can apply it, and it all works within our system from a technology perspective. And the second one for the battery, the campus-based system, the little tags, and there's a little triangle inside this one, for example, has a 3-year battery life, and it's a replaceable battery. The system also knows the battery level of each of these devices, and we have a system that also monitors those for our dealerships. And if a battery goes dead, we're not going to let you put it in or tag another asset to it. So we work to make sure that, hey, the 3-year battery life, so it's a long time before you have to worry about it. But we know they will die after a while, and so very easy to monitor that within the TrueSpot system and make sure you can have 2032 is usually, as well as little coin cells, easy to pop in and out to change them out. Great questions.
Wow. Randy, a lot of questions here for Mike, and I know you've had time to think about certainly the unapplied time and the consequences. What's going through your mind, Randy?
Well, right now, my head is exploding because I'm thinking about solutions. Now, think about the average dealer's lot right now. It's a BB and a boxcar. I mean, they're empty. So right now would be a time to define purpose and set clarity. I'm sitting here thinking, you take both Scott and Shawn's situation. Scott has a very large fixed operations department. I could see 4 zones, and this would help Sarah. So now, if a car is written up and it's waiting to go in the shop, it's in zone 1. When it's in the shop, it's in zone 2. When it's finished with the shop, it's in zone 3. And after it comes out of car wash, it's in zone 4. Now, I work 410s, for example. That's where your biggest problem lies in there, because I don't like to make appointments. I like to make convenient drop-off times. That's just something that we like to do. It's not an appointment for the day. It's a convenient drop-off for the day sometime. Because when you work 410s, 3:30, 4 o'clock, the customer is calling Sarah and say, what's up with my car? And you say, well, we haven't even gotten to the shop today, and they go through the roof. We haven't defined purpose of what it's a convenient drop-off time for you to talk to an advisor for sometime today. Well, Sarah could see on the call, if it's in zone 2, it's in process, it's in the shop. If it's in zone 3, it's completed, but we haven't washed it yet. And if it's in zone 4, it's completed. Where's the paperwork? Because this is a time waster, is we haven't completed the paperwork yet. Now I know where to go. Just because of the 4 zones, I could see, and you could do it now because you have so much asphalt. You don't have to worry about moving stuff down. You can get good at it before the supply starts to come back in again.
Randy, you always give us a whole lot to think about. Before I go to Sarah, Mike, what are your thoughts?
No, I love it. Randy just defined a word that we made up, which is called geointelligence. And so understanding that geospatial elements of the campus, and every time we onboard a customer, we build the campus network and what we call micro geofences to do just that. So zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, because they all mean something. And more times than not, the location means something. And so that applied with process, applied with location, and that geospatial awareness can create that real-time visibility to say the status of the vehicle. Not only physically do I know where it's at, but hey, paperwork is not done yet. We're here. We're looking at another X hours or whatever the case is to set the customer's expectations. And so I love it. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Sarah, over in the BDC, could this help your agents and yourself in being more efficient with the consumer?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, think about this. Every single time a status update comes into your BDC, that's a lost opportunity for your BDC to make money. If you want your BDC to be able to make phone calls and be calling your customers to remind them of upcoming service visits, talk to them about their special order parts, go ahead and get them scheduled before their vehicle may be due for service. Every single time a status call comes in, that is taking away from their opportunity to really serve your customers better.
And with that is more wasted time as well. So
Yes.
yeah, makes a lot of sense. Mike, you've put all this together, and you've got it in fixed operations, you've got it in variable, it's in dealership. Mike, what are your thoughts looking out at the landscape, some of the things we're hearing now? Where do you see this going? How do you see it growing? Because I could see every dealership, whether it's a standalone like Scott, whether it's a dealer group like Shawn, I see every group wanting to, being able to save that time and save that wasted time, because it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we think so and hope so. And I mentioned before the word culture. And so we've heard that from our dealer partners as we've implemented that. Now we've become a part of their culture. Where we're going in fixed ops, and it's I think somewhat similar to what we've done on the variable ops side, is just integrate with as many partners as possible, because that location we can feed it back into DMS. We can feed it into the service drive products. We can integrate back and forth, which is something we're really keen on. I think we've done probably over 30 integrations with all different aspects and all kind of companies, whether they're key companies, whether obviously the DMS, the inventory companies, and multiple others, just to make everything work together better. And that's really one of the key things, no pun intended, that we're focused on, is how can we help systems work together, talk together, and just make life simpler and more easy for our dealer partners. So that's one of the biggest things we're focused on going forward.
Mike, when a dealership or dealer group contacts you, typically, where do you start?
Hello, and then you try to find out a little bit about the pain points. And so if it's I would say just to call inbound, tell us how you heard about us, tell us what your pain points are, and kind of go from there. So we first and foremost, we want to learn as much as we can about your operations, your dealership, because the system and the solutions they do the same things, I would say, as far as solving problems, but every dealer is unique. From our what we've seen, operations are always a little bit different. Obviously, every campus is unique, so we're dealing with the physical campus and understanding kind of the geospatial elements of that. So we want to learn as much as we can about all of that, and then figure out how we best apply technology and also the partner ecosystem, what DMS are using, what are using in the service drive. And so we work obviously with all those companies and different levels of integration that always keep improving and going forward, but figure out how that works together to best provide value. So,
Shawn, I'll come to you. What do you see as the potential for being able to save this kind of time and being able to do it the way Mike tells us we can do it today?
I see it on a multi-platform level, Ted, to be honest with you. I mean, I see it on the new side. I see it on the used side. I see it on the customer-friendly facing side. of where the vehicle's at on pickup and delivery, especially on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock when all hell's breaking loose, to try to keep it as clean as I can. And I mean, I think there's a huge side. I see a huge side for Sarah's BDC side, because with Sarah's help, we've obviously built a monster BDC as well. And to the zone idea that Randy had, I mean, there's a multi-tier avenue that this could go for sure very quickly.
Yeah, I see it. Mike, if our dealers want to reach out to you and get more information and take the next step with TrueSpot, what should they do?
I'll just say keep it easy. Mike at TrueSpot.com. Send me an email. I'm happy to talk and get you in touch with my sales team and really just learn more about how we can help out. But yeah, Mike at TrueSpot.com is probably the easiest thing.
Wow. Mike Hanna at TrueSpot, everybody, leading the way with new technology that is changing the way we are going to be operating our dealerships and saving us a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money. So I want to thank the panel today, Scott Gregg at Tucson Subaru, Sarah Vantine at Quantum 5. Thank you both so much. Randy Brenckman at Randy Brenckman Solutions. Randy, you always make us think. I love it. I love it. Shawn Kingery at the Step One Automotive Group. Thank you so much. And Mike Hanna at TrueSpot. On behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all your time.
Thank you, guys.
Mike Hanna from TrueSpot and the panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
How much time and money are wasted on searching for vehicles around the dealership lot? TrueSpot gives you real-time location of all your inventory. Now your team can find any lost vehicles in seconds with a few taps on their smartphone. Well, we've done the math. We can save the average dealer $280,000 a year and cut your sales cycle down by 45 minutes. Yeah, now we have your attention. How many times do your keys walk off without anyone knowing who has them? Key machines can only do so much, and they certainly can't give you the status of every asset. It's time to work smarter, not harder, with Lot Management 360. Our dynamic dashboard delivers real-time analytics and statuses that put you in motion for better sales. Plus, we can customize the integration to fit your dealership's needs. Know the status and location of every key and car, anytime, anywhere. Does your recon process have a recurring problem with vehicles standing still for days? With True Recon, the recon status of vehicles changes automatically based on vehicle location. You'll know when the vehicle is stocked for recon, dispatched to service for inspection and repair, sent to collision for scrapes and dings, brought to detail for a deep clean, and then frontline ready. Say goodbye to long turnarounds and say hello to a 50% reduction in time for getting your vehicles frontline ready. If you're ready to take control of your assets with quick access and real-time analytics, then eliminate what you can't see with true visibility. TrueSpot. Location is everything.
I am so relieved after that last panel. My fixed ops assets are finally protected. Mike Weldon is up next, hailing from the Hansel Automotive Group.
Well, this interview is a long time in coming. It's with a great friend and a great supporter of the fixed operations community. You will all recognize Mike Weldon, who is the fixed operations director at the Hansel Automotive Group out in Santa Rosa, California. Mike, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you for having me here this morning.
Michael, thank you for all that you do. You know, I haven't seen you in a while. I remember, you know, just before the world, you know, changed, I was out to see you and your team, and you know, you've got an amazing group of dealerships there, and the franchises, and a really great team.
We work really hard to get us in the position that we're in today, and we've got a lot of great people, and I think that's what makes up our team.
And you've put that together, Mike. So if you don't mind, in case our audience doesn't know, kind of give us the lay of the land. Tell us, stores, franchises, number of technicians, and so on.
Sure. We've got 9 brands. We've got 8 rooftops and a collision center. The brands that we represent are BMW. I'll start in the north. BMW, Volkswagen, Acura, and Subaru, which was one of our smallest brands and has become one of our largest brands. It's just really grown. We've got 2 Ford agencies, and we've got a Toyota agency, and we've got a Honda agency, along with Lincoln.
Wow. In fact, I now that you mention it, I remember Henry, Hansel, and Justin. I met them originally. I met you folks probably about 11, 12 years ago, through the Ford franchise and with some work with Ford up in I guess out of the San Francisco region.
That's correct. I remember when Ford does reach out and they bring in some solid performance people, and you're one of them naturally. And we appreciate your contributions to our industry.
Mike, how many technicians do you oversee?
146.
146. Wow. That's a massive number, big, huge payroll. How many service advisors at your store?
45 service advisors. And then in the fixed side of the business, it's over 300 employees.
Wow. And I know that's a huge part of your business as well. I never asked you. I never had the chance. Mike, how'd you get into the car business? How'd that all happen?
Well, I was a wee lad. My dad was in the automotive business. He owned a specialty shop, and we worked with dealerships because back in the 60s, the dealers didn't install air conditioning. They didn't install radios. They didn't repair radios. We were a warranty radios repair station for Delco, and they would sublet all their work to us, and we would handle that end of the business. And my dad started that business in 1961. It actually started in a Texaco gas station.
Wow.
And based on the prices today, I'll shock everybody. It was 26 cents a gallon. He made 6 cents a gallon profit. You vacuumed the customer's car, you washed their windshield, you cleaned underneath the hood, and you wore a bow tie. The business, however, was the back side of the business or in the garage, and that's how you sustain yourself. Well, we did that until 1967, and then he opened up a shop in our hometown, which was Pleasant Hill, California, and helped put me through college. I worked with him the entire time, and he wasn't an easy boss, I'll tell you.
What'd you study in college?
I went to school to become a forestry major. I like the outdoors. Probably would have married my wife had I stayed in it. But during that period of time, the only jobs that were available out there were fire jumpers. And I'm not jumping out of a perfectly good airplane into the middle of a forest that's on fire. So I changed it back to business. And then I went back to what I knew best, and I got back in the automotive business.
Wow. And when you first started out in automotive, were you a technician, or what was your background there?
I did everything. I started at the toughest part of the business, and that's cleaning things up. And then my dad put me in the shop, and I began to work on cars. And then I also was his floor salesperson. So when customers came out on the showroom floor, I would stop with what I'm doing, and I go out and help the customers and provide them the products and services that they needed to have.
Wow. And how'd you come about to get involved with the Hansel organization, Mike?
I've known Henry Hansel for a number of years. I sat primarily most of my career in the automotive industry and dealerships has been with Ford Motor Company. I started back in 1983 in a dealership in Walnut Creek, and I earned some benefits and went to some award ceremonies, and I started meeting people naturally that attended those, and I got on several committees. I was the national chairman for Ford Motor Company and the Service Managers Advisory Board. And then I met the Hansels. And even though our paths didn't cross until a lot later on, I just felt that they were a very well-run organization, and they were a family concentric business. And I like those.
And you know what? The impression I've gotten from the time I've spent with you and with the organizations is that they really care. They care about their customers, their guests, and they care about the employees a whole lot.
They do. And you see my backdrop, and it says "Caring drives us," and that's what we're all about.
And by the way, I know you shared with us some time ago on one of the panels what that is. But if our audience hasn't seen it, what is that exactly behind you, Mike? And I know it took a while for you to help put that together.
It took us almost 2 years to really come up with a theme that we felt that we could support. There was a number of us that sat in session, and we just bounced this thing back and forth to what we want to represent. And it's talking about community, it's talking about customers, and it's talking about our employees. And that's what you have to build off of. And I think that's how a company is going to grow, is by having something that you can rely on to direct and drive you the direction that you need to go.
And it's always there. I guess it's your core values and your mission all into one.
It is. And is it easy? No. And do we have to step back and reevaluate every single day?
Wow. You mentioned to me, I mean, our business is going through a lot of change, Mike, even in the short time that the few years that you and I have known each other. And of course, there's a lot more to come. And one of the things you and I were talking about just before is all the focus now on reconditioning, with what's happened with the market and used and the shortage on new vehicles. Talk to us a little bit about recon and some of the things that you do there at the Hansel Group.
Well, since the pandemic, we haven't been able to get together. We've always had meetings that covered weekly reconditioning stats. Since that period of time, we've actually started grouping twice a week, but we do it by Zoom now. And what we've done, it used to be just fixed ops. It used to be parts and service and the used car manager that would sit in a room and discuss the status of the vehicles that are running through the process. We're using a software that we met an individual some time back that works quite well for our group. And now we've done it Zoom, but we've actually grown, and it's kind of a neat thing. David Long and I've been working on bringing this group together, and we collectively now do it twice a week. We're going to have another one today. And we talk about the state of the status, where we're at on vehicle sales, what vehicles are selling. And it's trying to educate our service side and our parts side how important it is to have this unity. Then we talk about the units that are in production, and we talk about we're now looking at, okay, this is the estimate for recon. How much did we set in when we traded the vehicle in? Are we set up right? Can we retail out of this unit? Are we going to sit on it more than the 40 days or 50 days? If so, how do we evaluate that and going forward, not get ourselves in that position? So it's really educational. I'm truly enjoying it.
And you do that how often now?
Twice a week.
And David Long is a great leader, and I know he's got his finger on the pulse of that pre-owned, that used vehicle market, and that's a passion of his. So and by the way, you can mention Dennis McGinn and Rapid Recon, because you were one of the very first dealers to start using Rapid Recon, I understand.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that we were part of his success, and it's a grand product, and I wouldn't know how to do it without it. It really makes it easy. It's a one-stop shop and allows us to evaluate our production processes.
Mike, what would you say? I mean, with all the, the 300 plus employees that report to you, at the multiple dealerships at the Hansel Automotive Group, what would you say is the most challenging part of what you do, most challenging part of your job?
Well, I think you already said it, people. It's trying to understand how they think. We've now introduced into our climate a lot of younger people, different generations that don't always think the same that we did when I started out. And so you have to adjust and pivot and come up with techniques to get them to, one, engage, two, to enjoy their job, and two, to get the desired outcome by their performance.
We just had a panel with a number of fixed ops, two or three fixed ops directors, one of them from the Fred Beans Automotive Group, and Tom Rustino at the DePaula Auto Group. And the comment was made that with the younger employee now, more time has to be spent explaining why to do a certain thing rather than just do it. Maybe that's, when we were coming up in the business, when the boss said do it, we just did it. Right now, we got to take a little time and step back and explain why, and maybe be a little more tolerant. Do you see that as well? Because again, you've got a lot of younger people there as well.
Well, that's a true statement. And I think that that's a lot of coaching that we do, not only with the staff, but also with our management, because that I told him once, he should know how to do it. Well, you're going to tell him at least 10 times. And if that doesn't work, you're going to tell them again and again and again until they believe that you're sending them on the right path. And that's a big adjustment.
What do you think is the ideal environment of today, right now, for employees in fixed operations to perform at their best? And I know you do a lot of things. Your environment is not the average one by any stretch. You go above and beyond in many ways with a lot of things that you do. What do you think, Mike?
Belonging. I think that's what everybody seeks today. They want to belong to something that makes sense. They also want their personal time, which we're very cognizant of, and we try to make sure that we don't infringe on that. But I think the biggest thing is they want to belong to something. They want to be part of something. They want to be respected, and that's what we do every single day.
And the one word I would point to is inspire. I think Mike Weldon inspires his employees and inspires his team because it is a team effort in what you do there at the Hansel Group. Mike, looking ahead, with all the change happening in our industry, there's all this talk about what's coming, with EVs and naturally you're in California, probably on the forefront of that, right? You probably see some of that before we do the rest of the country. But, what do you see ahead for the rest of 22 and the next couple of years? What kind of preparations should we be doing? Should we be concerned? What do you think?
Well, what I teach too, and what I try to communicate to my staff, because a lot of people just worry about now and not the future. And when I interview people, I ask them what their 1-year plan, their 5-year plan, and their 10-year plan is. And it's the same thing that I try to lay out for our management staff. Where are we going to be in 5 years? Guys, what you see today is not what it's going to look like in 5 years. It's going to be a lot different. The oil change is going to be a tire rotation or a tire exchange. You're not going to be changing oil on cars. How are you going to adjust your market? The technician of today is not going to be the technician of tomorrow. Where do we need to go to educate our staff so that they can take in these high-tech vehicles and repair them? Because consumer expectations is going to be just as high, if not higher. And these newer cars that are coming out are going to be very expensive. and we've got to meet the customer's needs. So 5 years, you're going to see a big change. The automotive industry, I think, has evolved since Henry Ford put it out and put out production vehicles, and I've been glad to be part of it. But this is going to be one of the biggest changes.
Last question, Mike. What would you say to our audience? What advice would you have for the fixed ops directors, service parts managers, service advisors, dealers watching today, people within our industry? What advice would you have, for them if you had the opportunity, which you do, to give your share?
Enjoy what you do, love what you do, have a passion for what you do, and that's going to get you through. Because if you have that vision, you'll get there. And if you treat people right, they'll be there with you.
Great words, Mike. And I know you live that as well, because I've seen that. Thank you for all you do, Mike, for fixed ops, not just for the Hansel Automotive Group, but what you do for the fixed ops community. And you brought a lot of folks together. And when you speak, people listen, Mike. So,
well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
True. Mike Weldon, the fixed ops director at the Hansel Automotive Group. Thank you so much here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Obsessed with creating the perfect inventory? Us too. Parts Edge gives you the tools you need to outpace the competition and provide the highest level of service to your customers. Parts Edge is a powerful tool for parts managers to get the job done faster. Imagine what it was like when the impact wrench arrived. It made mechanics 3 times faster. Getting the job done without the latest technology makes it difficult to keep up. Besides all the other responsibilities you have, you work hard to have all the right parts you need when you need them. Parts Edge was designed by parts people for parts people to make that job a lot easier. Parts Edge saves you 4 to 6 hours every week and can increase your sales by 10 to 20% in just 12 months. Not bad for your bottom line. Take your obsession to perfection with Parts Edge. Call us today to find out what Parts Edge can do for you.
There has been an awakening in women in automotive. They're stepping up to the roundtable fresh off their new spaceship and under the leadership of a new Jedi Master. Veronica Dunford and Kathy Gilbert are here to tell you about what's new and recharged in the women in automotive galaxy.
We have seen a lot of big announcements this year in the automotive space, probably none bigger than women in automotive. And I want to go ahead and welcome our next 2 guests, and I want to congratulate them as well. They are Veronica Dunford of Dealer-Built and Kathy Gilbert of CDK Global. Ladies, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks, Ted.
Veronica, our audience is familiar with Veronica Dunford of Dealer-Built. Kathy, this is your first time on the roundtable, so thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you very much. It is definitely an honor to share with all of your viewers what we're doing as it relates to women in automotive, and I'm glad to be here. I look forward to our conversation.
You know, we all know women in automotive is important, but Kathy, why is it so important, especially right now with all the things happening in our industry?
So, when I think about right now, I think about 7-8 years ago. I have spent most of my career over the last 20 plus years. I won't say how many exactly, but over 25 years in this industry, supporting our women dealers as well as our minority dealers. And what has always been important is that you only have about 6% of women that are truly in leadership roles and at the dealership. And those numbers still remain low. And we are, I continue as well as Veronica in terms of just really focused on women in automotive. And so about 7 years ago, I was one of the founding members of Women in Auto. We started with the whole mission of how do we advocate and advance the role of women in the automotive industry. So there were 6 of us, and it was so important for us to really look at how do you drive more advancement? How do you drive more growth? How do you get women that are in the industry not only to share their stories, but also advocate for women that are here and to drive more women into the business? And so fast forward, you look at in the middle of a global pandemic, you look at the political situation, you look at social unrest, it was just so much happening. And so the organization kind of stalled for a little bit in terms of trying to really look at what our direction was going forward. And so I'm fortunate to be partnering with Veronica and Gary and Robin and Joni, those of us that are on the team, to really take this to the next step. And what that means for women in the industry today is that you still have an advocate that's here to support you. You have an organization that has a great number of connections and sponsors and business leaders that just want to support women that are coming into the industry, help those that are in the industry already to advance their career, as well as those that are looking to grow. And so that's part of what Women in Automotive is all about. How do we recharge the industry and recharge our partners to really focus on giving back and supporting women, advocating for women so that we can continue to grow the number of women in the organization.
And Kathy, I could think of nothing better than the Women in Automotive Conference, because that has really been the standard in the industry now for a number of years. So, I congratulate you on the initiative and all the hard work that you've done to get us to this point. And now congratulations on the acquisition with Veronica. Veronica, Kathy mentioned the word recharge, and I thought that's a great way to position it. Veronica, what is Women in Automotive Recharged? What does that mean to the membership and so forth?
Well, like Kathy just said, we're looking to just recharge all the initiatives that we originally, and Kathy with the original founders had started so long ago. And when we looked at acquiring Women in Automotive several months ago, initially, ironically, we were turned down. And the more that Christy had thought about it, I believe that I kind of talked her into it, more like begged and pleaded, because I really had such a drive and passion to continue the legacy she started. She had other offers, but it was really just kind of disheartening, some of the directions those offers might have taken it. We don't know. They may have continued, but we had all poured so much into the organization over so many years that it was really pick me, that kid in the corner saying, no, pick me. We really want to pick up this ball and run with it. And at the end of the day, she did. She picked me. And I gathered up my closest, dearest friends that I knew had the same drive and passion, and we ran with it. Wow. And that's, we just have such an ambition and a drive to, as Kathy says, recharge this initiative. We have so many things that we just want to do to not necessarily change, but to grow and expand what was initially started. And we just have big dreams and big goals. And I think with the group that we have, the sky's the limit.
I think we can all see and feel your passion, Veronica, and Kathy as well. And I can relate to that, to making sure that, is that legacy now going to be carried on and, taken even bigger? Kathy, Recharged Women in Automotive, what does that mean now to the membership going forward?
So one of the things that we've been talking a lot about are some of the same things we talked about a couple years ago. And I think that in the climate that we're in today, we're coming out of a pandemic, everybody is excited. I'll tell you, those of us that had an opportunity to go to NADA, that was one of the best experiences because I just get a chance to see people and touch people and and not touch in a crazy way, you know,
but
to
hug
just
them.
touch and get a
We actually
hug,
got
right?
hugs.
To give, you know, a high five or shake hands.
Sure.
And what I would tell you is when you think about recharging, I think there's so many of us that now are at that point of saying, what does this new normal look like, right? And for us, that new normal is really about enhancing the membership that we have. So for those that have always been supportive of women in automotive, we want them to continue to support us. We're looking at continuing our mentoring program. Women Powered University was a real big focus on how do we help women that are looking to partner with senior leaders or other leaders in this industry that can help them out. We're also continuing our conference. So we didn't do the conference this year as we lay out the foundation of where we're going next, but you can definitely expect to see us next year in our annual conference where we'll have all of the great things that so many have come to become accustomed to. And then I would tell you the last thing that recharge means to me, and as part of this organization, is the regional events. Because we've had so many of our sponsors reach out and say, well, we have local women that are kind of in our community that may not get a chance to attend some of these bigger events. They may not get a chance to attend NADA. How can we still bring some of the lessons and resources and people and talent and key, you know, the speakers and the great content that we provide? How do we bring that to these women at a lower, you know, not a lower, a local level? And that's one of the big focus. So when I think of Recharged, a lot of those great ideas that our sponsors and our members have shared with us that they would like to do, we want to do those, and that is our plan. And so we look forward to those kind of 4 pillars: our membership, our mentorship, our regional meetings and our regional events, and then our conference, is giving us an opportunity to continue to spread the word and advocate for women.
Kathy, I think also you mentioned, I think the second one is the mentoring pillar.
Yes.
You know, at the retail level, you know, creating that awareness that there is a resource available to help me in my career. Okay, that this is available. I think that is so important. You know, just to you know, to offer that guidance and that support, and that there are others to help you. You know, into you know, making this an amazing career, because, you know, up until Women in Automotive, Kathy, that really did not exist.
Yeah. Not on a broad level. There were kind of one-offs, but what we wanted to do was to take it to that next level, because it's not just the entry level, right? It's not just I just, you know, joined the dealership, or I just joined the you know, the manufacturer or vendor partner. It isn't I just got in the industry. It's I'm in the industry, but now I don't know how to advance. You know, I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know how to have some of those conversations. And so when we talk about mentoring is not just that one-on-one. You know, Ted, you and I got a question, I can reach out and call you and you and I can talk. But it's also the mentoring groups, right? Where you get one person and they're talking about a key topic. And that topic could be work-life balance. It could be, you know, how do I manage now, you know, advancing my career in automotive? What opportunities are there? So there's a lot of opportunity, at least for us, that we see for women across the country, where having someone that you can talk to, whether it's internal to your organization or external, it helps you. And it helps women stay in this industry rather than leave out and try another industry. So when you have somebody you can talk to, someone that can tell you, you know, it gets better, you know, and trust me, this is a great place to be. Those are the conversations we want to have and the support we want to provide for our women.
Wow.
Our women
Well,
members. Or
and in
actually all
addition-
members.
Right. And in it, like she said, all members, because in addition, we're going to offer support for men as well, because it doesn't just take men or women, it takes those men that support the women. And the men have to learn how to interact with women in some instances, because it's not just a boys' club anymore, or perceived boys' club anymore, because, you know, women are moving up the ranks. And in some businesses and cultures of businesses, the men just either don't quite know how to adjust and adapt to having women at the higher ranks. They want to, but they still have to adjust.
You know what, Veronica, a great point. And to that point, I have heard on a number of the panels we've had that, an ROI perspective at the dealership level, Kathy, as an example, there is a much greater ROI when your staff resembles the consumer, okay? And especially making your consumer comfortable. And since women account for the overwhelming majority of purchase decisions, not just in sales, but in service and all the way through the car experience, women trust and want to deal with other women as well. And what I have learned, Veronica and Kathy, along the way, is that the ROI for a dealership is incredible. It's through the roof. And if a dealership is not, actively working and promoting and encouraging and mentoring, they are, Kathy, at a disadvantage by not having that.
Oh, absolutely. The other thing I would tell you is that the dealership is the community that we live in terms of supporting our deals, but it applies across the board in every industry, in every company. And so to your point, is very valid that it's not just in retail, it's not just a dealership, but it starts, it's across the board, whether it's our OEM partners, whether it's our vendors, every company in every industry benefits when they have people that are representative of the communities that they serve. And so when you think about, women, they bring a different perspective, not that it's better or worse, but it's different. And those are the perspectives that allow us to build better products, to service our customers better, because ultimately you're getting a perception that, again, I can't tell you what it's like to be a man, because I'm not, right? But I have been around men. Service is the wrong term. I've been around men. I've supported men in terms of our business, but I can't tell you what it's like. And so when you have men in the room, women in the room, diversity matters. And companies that support diversity, they have better solutions, better results, and their revenue numbers go up because you're building products based on the communities that you serve.
I love it. You've also got a partnership with driving sales. Would one of you like to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Veronica?
Sure. So when I was going through the process of purchasing Women Automotive, one of the key things I thought of was, to build a company and make it successful, you can either expand by building, if you want to expand quickly, obviously, you build it, you buy it, or you partner with it. That's the only way to expand quickly. And my background, obviously, is M&A. We're not a company that's going to build anything of our own. So Jared was on our, Jared Hamilton, one of the most brilliant minds in the industry, I think. He was on he was on our board of directors previously, and also a good friend. So we just chatted several times. I talked to him about the acquisition. Did it make sense? Would it be able to go further? We just talked business, nuts and bolts, black and white. And one day we just started talking about, well, what would it look like if we partnered? They have the conferencing and logistics down. We are going to be hitting the ground running from ground zero, basically. And he'd have a bigger reach. It would really help us to expand quicker and, pick up a lot of the ancillary costs to be able to have those twice-a-year conferences that we have every year, or had. But they had the knowledge and the execution, and it was down to a science. And it was like, well, that's brilliant. You really couldn't get any better. And of course, we had our mentorship platform. Well, driving sales, what a lot of people do know, and again, a lot of people don't know, they have their HCM platform. HCM is human capital management. It's very similar to our mentorship platform, but for the training aspect of the dealerships. So it comes with accountability and scorecarding and training, career pathing. So you put the two together, and it's just an unbelievable platform. So not only will our members for Women in Automotive get mentorship, we have the ability to offer them a career path from ground level all the way up to the executive level. And it's
So important.
just an unbelievable avenue for us now. And
Love it.
we wouldn't have been able to build it out that fast. So we chose not to build it, not to buy it. We partnered with it. And you cannot pick a better partner than Gerald Hamilton and his team, because they are all just so phenomenal.
Last question for today. What tips can you share with women in the industry who would like to get more involved, learn more about women in automotive, learn about a lot of these things that you're telling us right now? I'll let you both answer that. Veronica, I'll let you go first. I'll give Kathy the last word.
Well, I'll answer about how vendors and sponsors and OEMs can get involved, because that's the route we're taking. We really would like for our OEM partners, which we've talked to several already, and vendors to get involved, because our ultimate goal at the end of the day is we would like to offer the mentorship, membership, and career pathing to our members at no cost or very little cost. So we can be able to give it to as many people in the industry that need it, that want it. And we found at our last conference that they lined up in droves for the ones that we gave away from the sponsors that stepped up. So for those folks, the sponsors and the vendors and the OEMs that would like to participate, please reach out to me directly. My contact information is going to be provided by Ted. And how to get involved is in the membership, because that's what Kathy's going to be doing.
And there's a
I'll let her
QR code.
answer.
Veronica,
There will
there's a
be a
QR code
code.
as well, is there not?
Yes, there is.
So I would finish up and say kind of two things. One is we're in the process of building the foundation, or rebuilding the foundation, in terms of what women in automotive looks like. So I would say definitely reach out to those of us that are part of the organization. If you want to learn more about it, if you want to get more involved, we will have a QR code, especially targeting our mentorship and those that either want to be a mentor, be a mentee, or to just sponsor someone in the program. There's a lot of value from a mentor-mentee perspective. But the other part of that is we have so many of our leaders that are in a position right now where they don't have the time to do the one-on-one. So there are other opportunities that we can, that we're looking at, to provide the ability for some of our senior leaders to interface, whether that's at our regional events, at our conference. So I would just tell you the best thing to do is to get involved, shoot us an email, or just reach out. Let us know that you're interested, and then we can talk more specifically about what opportunities may exist for us to partner together. But anyone that is interested in women, that love women, that are women, that have women, that they are supporting, please support us, because we are all about how do you advocate and grow the role women have in automotive.
What a great message for our industry. Congratulations, Kathy, Gilbert, and Veronica Dunford on the Recharged Women in Automotive. Everybody, we encourage you to get involved, to contact both Kathy and Veronica at the QR code that's on your screen, and to learn more about women in automotive. They have some very exciting things coming up, and a lot more in store. So stay tuned. On behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable and the Fixed Ops community, Kathy and Veronica, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ted. And good luck with the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted. We really
Kathy
appreciate
Gilbert and Veronica Dunford from the Recharged Women in Automotive here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Dealer-Built is committed to providing your dealership with a reliable enterprise-class DMS platform. Our service price guide covers operations worldwide with a richer, more robust level of support. Dealer-Built provides all the accurate ancillary parts that go with the RO automatically. Just enter the job, and a full list of parts needed will populate, right down to the nuts and bolts, even the fluids. This saves your service professionals from having to rely solely on memory, recalling every part needed for every job. It keeps them from searching for part numbers. This keeps your inventory on track, and also notifies you when you need to order those extra parts. Put it all together, and this is just one way Dealer-Built makes your day-to-day easier. Dealer-Built offers maintenance by distance and by time while providing OEM recommended services up to 120,000 miles. And that is what makes us the real DMS.
Shawn Kingery from Step 1 Automotive is stepping onto the platform as we speak. As long as he lives, hope lives. Now be brave and don't look back.
The Fixed Ops Roundtable community will be very familiar with Shawn Kingery, who is the Fixed Operations Director at Step 1 Automotive Group. And Shawn, we are thrilled and honored to welcome you back to the show.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ings. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be invited. It's an honor to be here. And even with the company that's behind me, it's an honor to be here, sir.
Well, you know, I was going to mention that. You're being joined today here at May the 4th be with you. And who do you got there behind you?
Well, so everybody's got the secret, you know, as you go around and you facilitate or you teach classes, you go around and you got to tell something secret about yourself.
Yes.
This is my secret. So I am one of the closet Star Wars guys, Ted. I admit that I am. And I believe Kara and myself and you had a call the other day. Another thing nobody knows about me is I have a right leg that is completely dedicated to Star Wars. That was all COVID, by the way. I have a little bit of artwork done on it. And then I have the 4 characters behind me that I have a small, overwhelming investment in, we'll put it.
Wow. And I will make a full disclosure that, yes, when we have needed subject matter expertise for this event, the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Kara and I have consulted you, Shawn.
Yes. And by the way, for the record, and my wife does not know this, the 5th is coming. It'll be here in the end of June. It's being made as we speak. That's Boba Fett.
Now, where do you get, how do you acquire those? How does that happen?
Well, so actually the company that makes them is a company out of Soho, New York, which you and I are both very familiar with.
Yes.
They're a company that actually has the license from Star Wars. And how it started was I flew to Soho for a weekend getaway. Yes, I have a problem. To get fitted for the Darth Vader one. It's a legit Darth Vader costume. It's straight from Star Wars. I was fitted for it, made for it. They shipped it to me, had a few alterations done. Since then, the rest of them, once they have your sizes, you order them, they create them, they ship them.
So there answers my next question as to are those life size, and they are. Wow.
They are life size, they are full costumes, and they are very wearable. The only one I've ever worn to any event was a downtown New Orleans for Mardi Gras. I was asked to wear the Darth Vader one, and I did. And I tell you, got quite a bit of attention.
I can imagine, Shawn.
Yes.
So anyway, so we're learning a whole lot about
Yes.
Star Wars and about Shawn Kingery. Shawn, tell us a little bit about your role there at Step 1. How many dealerships do you oversee? How many employees? Kind of give us a little glimpse into your professional life there.
So we are based out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida. We tell everybody Destin, Florida, because nobody seems to know where Fort Walton Beach, Florida is. We have 5 stores here. Altogether now we're at 19 stores. We just opened up some new stores in Bessemer, Alabama, just west of Birmingham. That's a Chevy point. That was our first Chevy point. But altogether, we have 20 franchises now. We have 3 parts operations, as I think you and I have discussed in the past. And I did a piece for Automotive News that we bought some mighty auto parts franchises to supplement our own inventory in our own stores. We have 2 rental car companies, which are VIP rental. Going to open and expand a few more of those where we're actually feeding ourselves and renting ourselves cars. And again, from there, we're just growing. That's who we are.
And Shawn, how many employees report to you in your capacity there?
The group as a whole, we have 857 as of right now, and I have 417 of those.
Wow, that's a huge number, and that's a lot a lot of people and a lot of, and as Fernando said, a lot of families. Okay.
It is a lot of families. You got to read that. And again, to your point, Ted, and to Fernando's point, is it's not you, it's the families you're feeding and the things that you do. And as we do onboard orientations and we talk about that, during COVID, we didn't lay one person off, not one. We actually lost a couple teammates, we call them, that passed away from COVID, but we never laid one person off, where some of the other groups were doing 30 or 40% cuts around us. Not one person. We kept everybody gainfully employed that could work. And I think that's one of our strengths that kept the reputation up.
Tell us about you, Shawn. Where'd you grow up? Because you're not from Florida originally, I don't think.
I am not, sir. I'm originally from a little town in Iowa. I'm a city boy, by the way. I'm not a farm. I got a flat tire on a farm once. That's my extent of farming, by the way. I'm a city boy from Iowa. I graduated from Iowa. Straight out of high school, I went to boot camp in the Marine Corps, spent 6.5 years in the Marine Corps, and then I got started in this great business, and I think I'll segue into that, where I was in Boone, Iowa, at a dealership getting my oil changed, and had no clue what I was doing. I probably looked upset, I'm guessing, because some gentleman comes and sits next to me and talks to me, and after 45 minutes or so, he goes, "Hey, what are you going to do with your life?" Well, at the time, I happened to be in a cast because I broke my foot, and I'd been in a cast for a little over 2 years in the Marine Corps. And I said, "I don't know. I was a firefighter. I can't do that anymore." And he said, "Well, come work for me." And I asked him, "Do you sell Amway?" Because I thought that's what he was. And he happened to be the dealer principal, and I didn't know it.
Wow. How old were you? How old were you at the time?
I was 24.
Wow.
24. Didn't know what a spark plug was from an oil filter, to be honest with you. He is actually one of my mentors. Always was, always had been. And again, I can go down that story real quick, but he taught me a lot. He taught me the good of the business, the bad of the business. He'd tell you once, don't tell you twice. The second time wasn't so good. And then from there, I spent 7 years with him. And he had 7 stores in Iowa. And I was recruited out of there by a headhunter to Minneapolis to work for Denny Hecker for 11 stores. And I ran 26 stores for Denny.
Wow. Just going back to Iowa for a moment. How did you start off, at what position? And by the time you left, what position were you at?
Sure. So I started off as a service writer. And when Pat asked me in the waiting room, I said, "Well, what do you want me to do for you?" And he goes, "Be a service writer." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "That's the guy that checked you in when you got in here." And so I was a service writer for like 7 or 8 months. And then a guy who I'm still very good friends with to this day taught me a lot. And I became a service manager. And like I said, I spent 7 years with him and took over all of his group and helped run all of his stores. So I literally got my teeth ground in Iowa. And then, like I said, went to Minneapolis, went to NADA Academy, spent 11 years there, spent 3 years as a general manager, running the both front end and back end in Duluth, Minnesota.
Wow.
And to be very honest with you, Ted, and I think I've covered this on your show once before, I did enjoy the front end. I'm not a front end guy. I'm a back end guy. I'm a fixed ops guy, not a variable guy.
And that's, not common for people to say that, because there's a lot of glamour associated with the front end, the variable side of the dealership.
There's trips, and there's this meeting and this meeting and that meeting and this, this event and that event. But again, I think it's because I cut my teeth so hard with Pat in Iowa, and then with Denny and the things I learned from Denny along the way. That's where I came from. That's what I knew.
What I think is really something that we don't see often. You run not just the fixed operations there at the dealership, but your wife is in charge of the financial services F&I at Step One. And how did you meet Tiffany Kingery, and how did that come about?
So her story, my story might be a little bit different for that, but we'll take my story now. After the Minneapolis events occurred with Denny, which is pretty carnal knowledge at this point, but I was recruited to go to Pennsylvania and work for Mile One and be their fixed ops director.
Oh, wow.
So a unique situation where it's actually a pretty good story. And that they have 17 franchises under one rooftop. Sales is on one side of the street, service is on another. A mutual friend of ours introduced us together, and we dated and lived together for like 7 months before anybody knew, because there was some rules against that. You want the whole story? We go to a Lone Star restaurant about an hour from the dealership.
Yes.
And as soon as I walked in, I saw a salesman. And as soon as I saw the salesman, I'm like, busted. I knew it. As soon as we walked in, I knew we were busted. We finished dinner on Monday morning. The president of the company comes and sees me and says, hey, you and I need to talk. And I said, no, there's really nothing to talk about because Ted, I won't lie. I said, hey, listen, I need to tell you the truth. Tiffany and I have been living together for quite some time. It's not like it's done. He goes, well, you know the rules. You can't date. You have to be married. I said, okay, give me a week. I'll figure it out. We got married that Friday.
Wow. And how long ago was that, Shawn?
7 years ago in June, sir.
Oh, wonderful. Wow.
Yes.
And now you've been in the car business for quite some time and you've built up a great following. You're running the dealership group there for fixed operations. So kind of take us through a day in the life of Shawn Kingery. I know there's a lot of different things that happen in the dealership, but your stores are not all just in one place, as you said. I would imagine you have to move around a little bit from one store to another.
We do. So we actually have, again, we have stores in Florida, we have stores in Alabama, stores in Georgia. So what we've grown to now we're $1 billion company. Officially in 2021, we became $1 billion company. We're no longer a company now, we're a corporation, we call ourselves. And you do have to move around. We use WhatsApp as a form of communication. I can tell you that out of my 19 rooftops that I have that are underneath of me, some managers, Ted, I talk to every day because they need that. They need the hugs and the kisses and the loves. There's other managers who, quite frankly, don't want to hear from me, and that's okay. But my claim to fame, or I guess my pride, is two different things. Out of all of our rooftops, I can tell you the name of every one of my technicians. I can, and I can tell, and again, I always make the joke. I can tell you the name of their wives, but I can tell you that I know all of them because that's where the bread and butter is. And as I share with you from time to time, Ted, I'm the one who does the numbers every single night. I post them for all the stores. Good laundry, bad laundry, dirty laundry, whatever you want to call it. I post every store's numbers. I call out the good. I call out the bad. We celebrate the victories, and we challenge ourselves on the struggles that we're having, on who's struggling from time to time.
Wow. I see that you are very much involved even today with the NADA Dealer Academy, and you go through a lot of training with your teams through NADA. Tell us about that and how that came about, and what prompted a lot of that.
Absolutely. So as we grew as a group, and as we grew larger and larger, and we recruited out of the, my partner on the variable sides from V-Auto, and you have this guy in used and this guy in fixed, everybody was struggling to find out who the trainer was, who could train everybody. Well, the answer was always NADA. And being a graduate of the academy, for me, it was almost a no-brainer, because for those that have been through the academy, what you learn is there's no secrets. You start from accounting, you go to variable to fixed, and you go through everything. So what we decided as a group to do was we brought NADA to us. We have a group of 20 of us, or 20, there are 20 of them. I'm sitting in it, going through it with them, even though I've already graduated. But we have 20 individuals, from our director of marketing to the director of variable, to my parts director, to my number 2, to a parts manager at one of our stores, all going through NADA Academy as we speak. We just finished week 4. Week 5 is coming up in July, and we will all 20 of them will graduate by the end of the year. But to take that a step further, what NADA has done for us, we are allowed. So a gentleman named Mark, it doesn't make a difference, but he is the parts instructor for NADA.
I know Mark Mikowski.
Yes, great guy. Spend a lot of time with Mark, we'll say. We hired Mark to come back on a weekend, on a Friday and Saturday, and because you can't clear the stores and bring all the parts managers in,
right?
We brought Mark back and brought them in on a complete 2-day training. We crammed 5 days of NADA training in 2 days to every parts manager that we have in the group. Required training. And let me tell you, by the first day out, they walk, oh, this is horrible. By the second day, they were begging for more. And I literally mean begging for more. And we're going to do the same thing for service as well. For the service managers, because I've only got 2 that are in the group of 20, we're bringing all the rest of them in to go through a 2-day boot camp, training those 5 days into 2 days. Off-site, uninterrupted, no cell phones. That's it.
And Shawn, that is not common that NADA would come to you. With the number of people that you've got, it makes sense to do it that way. But I've not been familiar with NADA doing that for anybody else.
No, it's rare. And it's funny, when we were in day one of training with Mark of Parts, we hadn't thought about this. When we signed up for NADA, this wasn't part of the agreement. It was something that Fernando and I and a couple of us came up and said, hey, we wish all the parts managers, because you knew right away there was information that some of our parts managers just didn't know. Because, Fernando made a comment during one of our meetings. He said, we pride ourselves of being imperfectly perfect. Who's the last department to get trained? It's parts. So we went with Mark, and Mark and myself sat out in the lobby and negotiated, and he agreed to a weekend it would work. And it was something as an afterthought. And then we just set it up and boom. And as you've seen some of I know, Ted, you and I talk a lot on LinkedIn. There's never a good time to train. You have to make time to train.
Yes. It's intentional, very much so.
It
You spend a lot of time investing in yourself and in your team and your staff to make everybody the very, very best. Here we are in the middle of May, Shawn.
Yes.
Last question. What would you tell our audience looking into 2022, looking into the summer months, into the fall? What should we be, because you're a great student of the industry, what should we be preparing for now? What should we be looking at and addressing and be concerned about as an industry right now, for you and your peers?
I think there's three things, Ted. First of all, EV, which you gave us a great platform the last session, which was awesome. I got a ton of great feedback. The second thing is Marco, infamous Marco, now that I've got to know it. And again, I'm going to give Ted Ings a plug here, and he's probably going to get mad at me for doing it for those that are watching. But I've got to meet so many Ed Roberts and Ted and Kara and Sarah through your platform. You and I were sitting in a meeting, or we're sitting in a session together last session 2 ago, whatever it was. And we were talking about money. There was a couple of us that were all talking about money and what we offer techs and some of the recruiting I've done and the things that we're offering. And Marco just literally put me in my tracks, and it changed who I am today. He says, guys, stop offering money. Anybody will pay us money. It's quality of life. And I'm not kidding. That literally changed all my recruiting tactics that day. And we all know that Marco's made a few posts as of late in the last couple months that has got a ton of great feedback. And let's be honest, he's put himself on a limb doing it, but he's not wrong. And if you listen to what he's saying, anybody can offer a technician $50 an hour, because we're all doing it. Quality of life now. And the last and third thing I'll say easily is, as the business changes and as my mind needs to change, as sales continues to sell cars and there are no new cars to sell, where we have an 80 or a 70 or whatever your percentage is of retention on new, and you're retaining 30% used. If you're not focused on used for 2023, you're going to fail, because you have to figure out a way to get those used cars back in 2023 to make this thing work.
And on the used side, reconditioning, I see, is a big part of your plan there at the dealership group.
Yeah. So we've actually just opened up our 4th used car center. And I know that Fernando and you had a conversation about it. It's called the Center of Excellence. It's a non-customer facing 35-bay facility, all state of the art, has one purpose: used cars. It's all about reconditioning.
Wow. Shawn, you got so much going on there. Of course, I'm going to invite you to come back at our next event and tell us and give us an update on everything that you have going on with your career and at the group there as well. So, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, we really appreciate you being with us here today, and at all the panels, because we're all learning from each other.
Yes, Ted, I thank you very much for setting the platform for all of us to be on it.
Love it. And I thank you, and I thank your associates behind you.
Yes,
and I thank you again for all your subject matter expertise on all the things that we discussed. So everybody, Shawn Kingrey, the Fixed Ops Director at Step 1, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
we might be needing some help in the shop. And did someone say they had a job for BGD too? Here are Shawn Parrett, James Holloway, and Shon Kingery.
Coming soon to a dealership near you in the galaxy, there is the concept of having a parts counterperson in the shop to help with what happens in fixed operations. And we are very humbled today to welcome a panel of experts, and that includes Shon Parrett, who is the parts manager at Mercedes-Benz in Farmington in Utah. We have James Holloway, who is the after-sales business development manager at the Swickard Automotive Group in the state of Washington. And we have Shon Kingrey, who is the fixed operations director at Step One Automotive Group based in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you so much. What prompted this panel is a post that Shon Parrett had on LinkedIn. And I'll go ahead and I'll put Shon Parrett, the graphic up, the picture that you posted from your dealership. And it got everybody's attention in terms of, boy, here's something new that's happening. And Shon Parrett, kind of take us through this and what's happening in this picture and give us some of the background, if you would.
Okay, so we have about 15 techs in our shop. We have one person currently stationed out into our shop that handles about 95% of all our service ROs. What he does is, at the time being, it looks like they might be coming up to get parts. We kind of pull our parts for technicians. That's the shelf that's on the right of the screen. Left, we have a lot of our fast moving inventory. But what he does is he goes over every RO that there's any type of question on. So something other than a technician requests a maintenance item, brake pads or rotors or something like that, they basically confirm with the technician either in their bay, or sometimes the guys will come over. If they know they just put the request in, they'll come over and confirm everything that they need for the job.
Shon Parrett, what prompted you to take this action, and how did this all come about?
We had a few inexperienced technicians as well as inexperienced parts counter people, and we had a high number of errors and also, wrong part received or wrong part ordered, and also not enough parts to do each individual job. And there's a lot of instances also where the job itself evolves, where we could have did a job a month ago. There's a new bulletin, new way Mercedes-Benz wants the job to be done, or what parts have to be replaced. A lot of one-time use only bolts and things like that. So we decided it's a lot of work for the technician to take the technician out of their bay into the parts department to go over the ROs. Also, it took a lot to get the parts department, parts counter person off their chair to go into the shop and find a technician. And we got that cue from the restaurant industry, where a waiter will come to your desk or where you're eating and basically go over everything that you need, or that, hey, what are you ordering? You're ordering a steak with what type of vegetables do you want? Okay, you want potatoes, you want green beans, what kind of drink do you have? How do you want your steak? They go over everything before they leave, and they actually confirm before they go back and put it with the cook. So we wanted the same kind of treatment in the shop. So anytime there's any type of questions as a part, what parts you need, or what side, what left or right, or any other questions they have, they basically confirm it before they submit the request in our ASR system.
And Shon, I imagine there would be some potential resistance to this move. Tell us what that could have been and how you handled that as well.
Well, we had a little bit of resistance at first because it's like anything else. You're trying something new for the first time. The parts advisors had to get into the routine of actually going out and visiting with the technicians. The technicians had to get used to before it's just kind of, you put the request in, you go pull the next car and you go to the next job. So what happens is now the technicians has got used to, okay, I'm going to either wait here for a moment, or, hey, I just put this request in. I'm going to beat the parts advisor to my bay. I'm going to go up there and just talk with him, say, hey, I just put this request in. This is everything I need. So it's worked on both ends, and it didn't really take much resistance. We have a very good crew here. Okay. So it took basically everybody getting used to it.
James Holloway, you and I talked about this for a little bit, and give us some of your observations and your thoughts on it, your perspective.
Well, going back in time, I was a parts manager at a dealership that we had room for approximately 50 techs. And at the time, I had probably 3 to 4 parts advisors just doing the back parts counter. And we found out that we could gain a lot of efficiency in servicing the technicians. Number one, by them submitting a parts request to the parts advisor at the back parts counter. And then from there, and the great thing about this, Ted, is everything was timestamped. So we had documentation, because I made the advisor save their parts requests from the technicians, and if in case there was a discrepancy. But we had, depending on how busy we were, anywhere from 1 to 2 parts pickers. And we did not have the parts advisors out on the shop, but we did have the pickers. And so what happened was it kept the parts advisors at their desk doing what they're doing. They're preparing price and availability for the service advisors so they can sell. So the parts pickers would grab the parts picking ticket, and that had a timestamp on it as well. So now we can see, well, how much was the time elapsed between the time that the parts request came in versus the time that it went out the door. And so the parts pickers would, and this is a kind of an important thing, I had the parts picking ticket print in a sequence that would prevent them from zigzagging back and forth throughout the parts department, because we had a couple of floors. Sometimes I had to go upstairs to go find something. I didn't want to go there twice, that. Mm-hmm. And they would take the parts out to the technician. And at the time, we had a lot of warranty business. And, I had a person whose sole job was to, log in every day, make sure that we were sending back the parts that Mercedes asked for, or scrapping the parts that we were told to scrap. But at the same time, that person would go out into the bays and make sure and retrieve those parts and make sure that the parts had the appropriate documentation for testing and things of that nature. So it takes an investment of people, but it's worth the trade-off in time savings and efficiency.
I love it. Shawn Kingery, I see you have been patiently waiting, and I know you head up a very big organization with a lot of folks working for you. And I couldn't help but notice, I think your parts director is going to make sure that your replies and your answers today are in uniform with what you're telling the organization. So I'm curious about your thoughts.
He is. Don is in the office with me as well. On my side of the house, and again, being a fixed ops director, but more of a service guy than a parts guy, for me, this is a completely different idea where it's twofold, really. We'll talk about Fix First Visit, where we have 6 Stellantis or 6 FCA stores, where Fix First Visit pays such a high price now, and it's such a big piece of our CSI, and it contributes money for sales on the back end side and the front end side. The second thing it does is it keeps the technicians off that back parts counter, which is like once they close that door, they go in the abyss and they sit back there for 45 minutes. A, because it's usually air conditioned and the shop's not. And B, because we got to tell everybody what we did this weekend and what we're going to do for the next 2 weeks. So for me, Shawn, Parrett, I think it's a great idea. When Don and I discussed it this morning, I didn't get things thrown at me. Let's put it that way. So it was a good idea. I love the idea. I think it's great. I see the advantage of it. I do wonder how you talk the parts guy, and this isn't meant to be negative, but how you talk that parts guy to get out of his comfort zone to go into the shop where, quite frankly, it's not air conditioned. It's really not their friendly environment, because a tech and a parts guy are two different people. But, Shawn, I challenge that question back to you. How did you pick, or do you rotate it, or is it one specific person that does it?
No, we have one specific person that does it. The biggest thing for us is it starts at the top. We have extremely good culture here at our dealership. So there's not a separation of departments, whether it's sales, service, or parts. There's not a real big separation of departments. And it was pretty much, the guys, when they make mistakes, they get the feedback too. Nobody wants to make a mistake. Nobody likes to hear that they made a mistake. Nobody wants to lose the confidence of the technicians. And that's a big thing for us. That's one of the things that you can't put on paper, is the confidence that our technicians have in our parts department. So it was actually an easy conversation. It was just putting the desk out there, rearranging the shelves, things like that. But putting the person in there, actually, it wasn't that hard. We have a good group of guys, like I say, working here. So they got along well between the two departments. And like I said, I don't think it was hard at all.
Okay. My next question would be, well, next question, my hope would be, just thinking through this and thinking the long term, is maybe it would help on my side of the house is that so you got a parts guy, not to put the parts guy in the middle of it in a bad situation, but then you got a parts guy who knows that tech never raised the hood, never diagnosed the car, and they're back there guessing in the bar. Not that ever happens, but the techs now at the back parts counter guessing, hey, I need this widget, when they never even looked at the car. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but we don't really do it here. We do a good job of diagnosing vehicles. We kind of started fresh a few years ago. Being a new point helped starting fresh, but we had a lot of newer guys that this is the first dealership that they worked on. So they don't have bad habits of that. And, we do a ton of training. Like I said, we push culture in there, every day they're trained well, and they have their own pride. So we just don't have somebody just pulling a car in saying, hey, we think it needs this. They look at the car, they diagnose it. And like I said, the main reason they go over with the parts advisor is because they want to make sure they're doing the job completely. Because the technician is the one looking at the LI bulletin to look at the repair instructions. Our parts guy's not. Right. And that's how they just want to make sure, hey, I know you know what this part is, but did you know they have one-time use only bolts on it? And the thing I just wanted to put out in here is this is the unforeseen thing is, so we look at our composites. Every manufacturer has it, every 20 group has it. They're always a top 20% of all dealerships. That's your composite goal. We're almost double in parts on repair orders as our composite goal. I mean, the number is $360. We're at $607 through this year. Our numbers are comparable last year. So it's not that we're basically gouging or just throwing a whole bunch of parts on a ticket, but it's the unforeseen parts that most people realize that they weren't billing out or not needed. So that's another deal when you're averaging, almost $250 something per repair order in additional dollars.
Shawn, Parrett, go back to that for a moment. Give us some background, because here's that word, James, culture coming up again, right?
Yes.
Shawn, give us the lay of the land. Tell us about your dealership, Shawn. How many technicians? How many advisors? Give us some background.
A little bit background on dealership. One thing that stands out for everybody: we're open 5 days a week. We're open Tuesday through Saturday, 50 hours in parts and service, few extra hours in service. So everybody in our dealership, from technician, parts manager to service manager, we're off on Sundays and Mondays. So we get 2 days in a row every week. I have a small staff. At any given time, I have myself as a manager. I have an assistant manager who basically handles production, assists in wholesale, assists in the shop, assists wherever he's needed. He handles the day-to-day operations. We have a person that handles pretty much retail and wholesale, takes the phone calls. We have one service person in our shop, and we have a parts driver. We just got our first quarter numbers. We're 7th out of 135 Western District dealerships for wholesale. We're doing the numbers in service. Like I said, we're averaging, $600 a repair order for just, customer pay parts. So we don't have a big team we work with, or just people just running around doing stuff. But we found a very efficient way to handle every situation.
And James, I know you and I have talked in the past. I don't know too many dealerships that are closed on Monday, yet this seems to work out extremely well for Shawn's dealership, and the numbers are there as well. James, there was a technician, Marco Zwanenberg, that's been on the program a number of times, and he talked about some of the out-of-the-box thinking, like maybe that shorter work week and things of that sort. James, what do you think about things like that moving forward in the parts landscape?
We all know parts and service goes hand in hand. Okay, we're there to support the service department, and as far as days off, like I think it's great, having Sundays and Mondays off, because my favorite saying, or one of my own favorite sayings, is we cannot pour from an empty cup, right? We have to be able to rest and recharge, mentally recharge, spend time with our families, do whatever it is that fills us up before we go back to work and give it our all and run the marathon and cross the finish line every week. I love that idea. And it's, by the way, I think that's how some of the technicians avoid burnout, or the parts people, or anybody else that works at the dealership. I think it's great.
And James, all the things you're saying are running contrary to what historically, has been the retail automotive business.
It's true. It's true. But, things are changing, Ted. We know this. And I've seen this time and time again at a lot of dealerships. I mean, the demand has never been so high, and the resources and bandwidth has never been so low. So there's a fine line that, we have to take care of our employees and their well-being. And when I say their well-being, I am a big proponent of mental health, because let's face it, out in the shop, of course, it's going to be more physical, but for the parts people, a little bit more mental. But we got to take care of both the physical and the mental side of what we do, because these are the people that are taking care of our customers, right? And it falls hand in hand with the culture of, of what Shawn's trying to do, or what any dealer's trying to do, is, we take care of our employees so they can take care of the customer. And it's a full circle.
Mr. Kingery, you and I have had a number of discussions about, our personal well-being, working in dealerships. And, let's face it, after all the years that, all of us here today on this panel, this is sort of like a mini 20 group here, hearing from different parts of the country and things that are happening. Shawn, what are some of your thoughts? Because some of these things, were unheard of, even a few years ago.
Right. And, Ted, you and I had a one-off just the other day about Marco's comments and the feedback that he got on LinkedIn. We're going back to the fact that, you guys can't keep abusing us. We can't work 6 and 7 days a week. We can't work double shifts, split shifts, whatever. And how the business has changed in my 28 years of doing this, where when you got in the business, you worked 70 hours a week. That's just what you did. It was the norm. Yeah. And it's changed. I think that, again, with the millennials and everything else that's happened, A, they won't do it. But B, as we all know, you can't do it. There's jokes on all Facebook posts. I'm going to retire when I have a heart attack and die, and there's some truth to that. But Shawn's speech about going to 4 days a week is a thought, or a 5-day work week, Tuesday through Saturday. Because of COVID, and that was a reaction. They stuck with it, but his numbers haven't suffered. Again, it's thinking outside the box. It's definitely a culture shift change. Again, Marco opened my eyes. Shawn, Parrett, you opened my eyes to it, to be very honest. That's not something I wouldn't have thought about before. I don't know how you sold a dealer principal on it. I think that would be a unique situation. And Ted happens to know my dealer principal, and, going to Fernando, hey, by the way, we're going to close on Mondays. Yeah, that'd be a fun speech to have, but hey, I'm up for trying it once.
So Shawn, Parrett, kind of take us through that. Take us through how your employees have reacted. How is management? How is the leadership, even above you? How have they reacted? And what was their, maybe what was their initial impression? And what about now?
We actually do it for our whole group. We're 12 strong in our dealership group. And we were kind of looking at.
Shawn, is that 12 dealerships, 12 stores?
Yes, we're 12 stores.
And what franchises do you have?
Shawn, what franchises? So I'll put it in order. We started out with 3 in Denver. We were Mini, Honda, BMW. We were the 4th here in Utah just over 5 years ago. Then we went to, we got a Subaru, Hyundai, Mazda, BMW, another one in California, Ford, Nissan, and then we just got announced a Volkswagen franchise also in California.
Okay. Wow.
So we've added 7 in the last 5 years. And how we came to that conclusion is, when we realized what we were going to do, the biggest thing when COVID hit was none of us knew how long it was going to last. We always joked that we didn't know if 6 months later it'd be like The Walking Dead or something like here, where there's no food and stuff like that. So we had to do it. The best thing is, what can we do that the dealership survives? At the end of the day, we have to make sure the dealership survives. So we went over different ideas. And the one thing we knew, that we were going to either lose people, or we would have to lay off people. It just had to happen. And we said, well, we're just going to have to close a week. There's no way we can keep open the amount of hours. So not only did we lose 1 day of our work week, we cut about 20 hours off of our work week also. So we shortened our hours. We were open from 7 to 7 every night. Now we're open 8 to 6. And then we just kept it when we realized that little things is like, we really didn't lose any car sales. We didn't do many car sales on Mondays, and those people had the appointments on Mondays. We just set them for Tuesdays, and we kind of worked around our customers. Saturdays, there was a lot of work we didn't do on Saturdays. It was just 3 or 4 guys in our shop that did maintenances, because you didn't want to get to a check engine light. You didn't want to do all these things on a Saturday. Now We do everything Tuesday through Saturday. We found a way to get our VOR parts on a Friday on a Saturday morning delivery instead of getting here on Monday. So we did all those things basically in the beginning to survive. And now we look at it as it's the best thing we ever did for the dealership. I mean, everybody, especially for salespeople will tell you, I've never in my career had 2 back-to-back days off every week unless I took a vacation. Now there's none of this, oh, your advisor's not here today. He's off until, because he works Saturday. Or, hey, my car got dropped off on a Saturday and never got looked at. Now it's back here on Monday call. So like I said, we did it in the beginning to survive, but it's the best decision we ever did. I mean, it's worked out for us and the customers.
And Shawn Parrett, what is the name of your dealer group?
Oh, Shon.
The Shon Dealer Group. So yeah. I imagine, Shawn Parrett, sometime right after this panel, you're going to be getting a lot of an influx of folks who perhaps want to relocate and come to work for you and come at your store because, this sounds, I can relate to those not having those 2 consecutive days off. And James, again, it comes back to culture and the out of the box thinking that, a lot of the things like Shawn Parrett is telling us started with COVID and now have, forever changed the way we're going to do business.
I have to say one thing. This is a great example of quality over quantity. And, Shawn said it, his numbers are up. The proof is in the numbers. What difference does it make how many hours you're open? As long as we're getting the job done and everyone's winning, to me, that's what it's all about.
James, I got to ask Shawn Parrett another question. What about your customers? What's their reaction been, to not being open, for example, on a Monday?
Originally, they're kind of like, I think because they didn't know what's going on. They're like, well, you guys are closed on Monday. Even our competitors, we even had competitors of ours going, well, that's your first step in going out of business, So our customers had to get used to it. I'm like James, I'm a big wholesale guy. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to lose my business. I'm going to lose XYZ customers. And then our customers, we just realized they want to deal with us. It doesn't matter if they did, like I get guys called like, okay, we'll just call you back on Tuesday. We'll just tell our customers we can't get Mercedes-Benz parts. And we do have 2 competitors. One is 14 miles away. The other is about 20 some miles away. Our customers, unless it's an emergency, they got to have it. They just call us on Tuesday. We do a lot of, we started doing is something different too for the wholesale market is we deliver on Saturdays. We know a lot of these places now, they ordered a part on Friday. That was the part they're waiting to on Monday. We deliver it to them on Saturday. Or if they're not even open on Saturdays, they have an area for us to set the parts. So instead of them waiting for us to deliver them during the day on Monday, they got those parts to them on Saturday. So now they get their customers' cars back a little bit earlier than most dealerships can get their parts to them.
Wow. And Shawn, the reflection in your wholesale business, what's the results been there?
Well, we always joke here. We have monthly meetings. We call them town halls. And we always joke that in parts, we always have record months. That's the biggest thing every month. Hey, it's not once in a while we have a record month. We always have record months. And for us, we've grown our business. Like I said, we do the Saturday deliveries. We just got our first quarter numbers. We're 7th out of 135 Mercedes-Benz dealerships. So we've actually grown our wholesale. We're able to take care of our customers more because now we're supplying to them 5 days a week instead of trying to get 6 days a week out of them. And because our parts driver actually only works 4 days a week. So his hours, because it's that Tuesday through Friday schedule, he actually has longer hours to deliver. It's not that, our guy, he gets off at 4 because he's working 40 hours a week. He's able to stretch his time in those 4 days. Then on Saturday, because we necessarily don't have the wholesale phone calls, myself or anybody here, we actually can deliver on Saturdays. And that's one of our days that we actually go out and visit our shops and speak to them when we're out on Saturdays.
Mr. Kingery, I got to tell you something about this Shon Automotive Group. A number of years ago, quite a few years ago, on the sales side, Shawn Kingery, they went to a one price model where they sell their vehicles for one price. And then after a period of time, they changed that model to one price, one person. What does that mean? Well, that means that you're going to deal with one person the entire sales process, and that includes the finance process. No TO to the F&I or a business manager. It's one person. And then they added a final leg of the stool, which is they will do the entire process for the customer in 1 hour. So one price, one person, 1 hour. And let me tell you, Shawn Kingery, a lot of folks said that's the first step in them going out of business. But guess what? That has proven to be a huge success with that different thinking, Shawn Kingery.
Wow, I had never heard that before. So, and Shawn, I'm going to put that back on you. And Ted had already asked the question. I mean, honestly, and again, I love that sales approach, especially since it would put my wife out of business. Anyway, James and Shawn, for those that don't know, my wife's the finance director for the group. But so Shawn, what was the feedback on the CSI? I mean, I got the customers. Oh, that's your first step out of business. You guys are on a bunch of Tuesdays. Do you get the comments? Because again, I've had a Mercedes franchise in the past. What was your feedback on the surveys?
I can tell you this. We were in a situation where we'd probably miss about every third, fourth month. We miss our CSI goals. I can't tell you when we haven't hit CSI here, because the number one thing comes down is communication.
Right.
So when your person drops off the car, they don't know when they're going to get a phone call. That's when you have bad CSI. You know, if a person understands you're closed on Mondays, people get it. People already get you're closed on Sundays. Okay. People understand that. And allowing us to finish the car, you know how it starts off, you set most of your appointments come in heavy during the beginning of the week.
Of course.
And then they teeter off on Friday and Saturday. So now we've taken that where a lot of people, they get their cars back for the weekend. And we, like I said, having the people here that many hours are not burned out. Our communication is up. And I can tell you this, we haven't felt it being closed on Mondays affecting our CSI, because it hasn't affected our communication to the customer.
Now, does your sales department do the same thing? Are they also closed on Sunday and Monday?
Sunday, Monday, everybody here, like I said, I'm here on Mondays by myself. If I'm here, I might come in for paperwork, but they are closed Tuesday. I'm sorry, we are closed Sunday, Monday. They work from Tuesday through Saturday. They're just here a little bit later. So they come in a little bit later than us, and they stay a little bit later.
Wow.
But it's also, this is something here. Our turnaround time for our cars through the shop, used cars, has gone up. We just finished 1 point something, and that's from check-in, getting the car traded in, to us out, going through detail through the shop, everything. We're 1.6 or 1.8 days turnaround time, where industry average is like 3 to 5 if you're great. We're getting that done too, because cars getting traded in, everybody's here to do the job. So if we get a car traded in on a Friday, we got all the parts, we get everything through the shop, we got that car selling here on a Saturday.
Hey, Shawn, there are a lot of dealer principals that watch this show. You're going to make a lot of fixed ops enemies by that statement you just made, just so you know. That 1 to 3 days with that, you're going to make some enemies there, buddy.
Yeah.
James, I think I counted about 6 or 7 best practices in some of the things that we just heard from Shawn that really turned the industry on its edge.
Yeah, I mean, if we always do what we always did, we'll always get what we always got, right? And I applaud the Shomp Automotive Group for thinking outside of the box and doing what they need to do to, number one, take care of their customers, take care of their employees. It just goes to show you that it can be done. And I've known Shawn for a while now, and I know that he's all about the business. Yep. And I know that if there's something that works, and by the way, thanks for sharing to the roundtable. If there's something that works, I think a lot of people would want to know about it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And you're right, James. And Shawn Parrett, thank you so much. Shawn Parrett, I'm gonna have to invite you back and extend an invitation to you, and perhaps maybe at the next roundtable, we have some of the folks from within your department and within your group to talk about a little bit more, because I think this is something we're going to hear a lot about now moving forward. So, Shawn Parrett, I want to thank you so much for giving us this information.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So stay tuned for more. We have a whole lot and great information. And I want to thank the panel, James Holloway from the Swickard Automotive Group, Shawn Kingery from the Step One Automotive Group, both great friends of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you. And Shawn Parrett, great friend of the Fixed Ops Roundtable as well. Shawn Parrett, James Holloway, and Shawn Kingery here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There used to be just one good way to sell parts, but over the years, things changed. Today's shoppers have moved online, They're buying cars, and they want to buy the parts for them online too, on their own terms. If you aren't online, those shoppers won't find you or buy from you. And soon, you won't be in business anymore either. Bring power to the parts department with Revolution Parts. It's a software solution built for you to help you sell more OEM parts and accessories so you can start growing more revenue. Revolution Parts takes care of the hard stuff while coaching you to success. Your local and wholesale customers will love it too. It's time for your parts department to join the digital revolution.
Revolution Parts is making it easier for dealers to buy parts from other dealers. Your service drive needs a part today that you don't have in stock, but your neighboring dealer does. With Revolution Parts, all you need to do is log in, find the part, buy the part, and get the part delivered all in a matter of hours. Neighboring dealers can use Revolution Parts to order the parts that they need from you and arrange their own on-demand delivery. Repair shops need factory parts fast too. They know dealer parts are better, but they end up going with aftermarket because they're easier to find and faster to get. Win that business back by making it easier to buy from you instead. When they log in to Revolution Parts, they can find the part, buy the part, and get the part on demand. The shop can arrange for a driver to pick up the part and deliver it directly to them, all in as little as an hour. It's a win-win-win. Happy driver, happy repair shop, happy dealership that's selling more parts. There's one more piece that ties it all together. We call it local delivery. Not only will neighboring dealerships and local repair shops be able to order from you and request on-demand local deliveries that arrive in a matter of hours, you'll be able to arrange reliable, trackable, and affordable deliveries on demand to get any parts order to any customer in the nick of time. With local delivery, you'll be able to order that part a ride, just like you'd order a ride to the airport. Revolution Parts Local Delivery. Get the part there faster, win more wholesale business, sell more parts.
What a powerful panel that was. And now, I need someone to show me my place in all of this. Perhaps Laurie Halter can provide me with some Jedi knowledge.
It is great to be able to work with so many talented people in the retail automotive industry. And it has really been amazing to see the star in Laurie Halter, who's the owner of Charisma Communications, who has played such a big part in fixed operations and bringing a lot of new ideas and thoughts and processes to the surface. So Laurie, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thank you so much for having me. And like I said before we hopped on, you have just, as I thought about the progressive people that I'm going to talk about in the presentation today, every single one is on your show. So back at you. Thank you for being a proponent at all times of fixed ops.
Hey, and I've reached out to you, to help us, put together and moderate some panels. And I know you work closely with a lot of speakers here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. So congratulations to you, Laurie, on all the success that you're having. I'm excited today to see your presentation. Let's be of service in service and to learn more. So
thank you so much.
If it's okay, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So yeah, as you said, this is really let's be of service in service. And I wanted to talk a lot about just how we can make for happier staff members and employees in our service departments. So I think we had talked about kind of a Q&A, Ted. If you want to start us off, we can hit it.
Well, I'm talking to a lot of people, and there seems to be a common theme about retention in fixed operations. Yes. And that seems to be very popular. I guess the question is, Laurie, how do we get there?
Yeah. So this is such an important question because as I talk to people, it seems like the focus is always on customer experience, and it absolutely should be. But happy customers come from happy employees. So what you need to always begin with, and Dave O'Brien from Quantum 5 is wonderful about this. John Traver from Traver is wonderful about talking about this. it begins with happy employees. So that really is all about, are you providing the training? Is it seamless for your experience? So if someone comes from sales where they're having a great experience into service, are they having that same experience? Are they still feeling that great sense of that someone is taking care of them? And the people taking care of them are going to be the employees in our service centers. One thing I'd love to share, I asked, getting ready for a different presentation on service, what they could do to make, I asked employees in service, what can your owners do to make you happy? One of the questions or answers, Ted, was they were given two baseball tickets for this woman to go take her son to the baseball game. So, and she remembered it and told it on the show. So we're not talking about big things here. We're really talking about small things you can do to make your employees happy. So, training, the retention part of it. Are there small things like you can do, but like those baseball tickets to make those employees happy? So that really, the customer experience, being of service and service, is not just to our customers. How can we make our employees better and happier in their roles?
And, I think we're learning a lot about that, all right, that it all starts internally. You mentioned two great names in our industry, David O'Brien of Quantum 5 and John Traver of Traver Connect. Both great organizations. They do a whole lot for our industry. And they deal very much, with the culture and the training. So Laurie, let's say we have the training down, the team is happy. How does that transfer over to the guests or to the customer?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different experiences, and we talked off screen, Ted. I love giving real examples because I feel like none of this really matters unless someone's actually doing it. So one of the real examples of creating a VIP guest experience is from Herman Mazda. And this is they've created a VIP guest experience in their service department. You come in, they've already figured out, they've emailed you to see if you want a Starbucks or a smoothie and what type. So you come in, you're greeted with a Starbucks or a smoothie, and then you have one person from beginning to end taking you through the process, and they call that person their concierge. So again, everything we're talking about, like small things. If someone gives me a Starbucks, I'll go wherever they want. So small things. This is a great example of something that they've put together. It's not going to take that much outside of their actual process to implement, but I felt like this was really amazing example of a way you can take care of a customer.
And by the way, that one person taking care of the customer,
yes.
I'm starting to see that now at more dealerships and dealer groups, not just in service, but of course in sales as well. Laurie, can you give us some other examples of the ways that service teams are elevating that experience for the guest?
Okay, so speaking of great people in the industry and impressive people in the industry, this is Ford Restaurant from our good friend Ed Roberts over at Beaux-Arts. And this is probably an example of not something small, something that they did that's amazing, progressive, but also large. They created this restaurant on site. So when people come to get service, instead of sitting for an hour in the lobby, you go right across the street to the restaurant and you get lunch, you get a drink. They were telling me that they have people come in. There's one woman that comes in every Friday night to get dinner and a drink. She's not even a dealership customer. She comes to the restaurant, but guess what? She could be a customer. And so when she next thinks about coming in for service, she's going to think of this store because this is now her favorite restaurant. So like Ed Roberts, hats off to you. This is an amazing example of providing an elevated customer experience.
And something about Ed, Laurie, he's really concerned about not only the guests, but the employees. And he takes the time. And I don't know how he does it, but if employees want to speak with him, and he takes the time to talk to them and to listen, and he's got a skill that I wish a lot more folks had in our industry.
I agree. I think it's all very genuine, and that definitely shines through. He truly does want to help both his staff and his customers. And then let's see, I'll give you another example that Ed is working on at his store. So this is an example that we don't have to be big. You don't have to build a restaurant. They have a ping pong table in their dealership. I mean, how fun is that? Like if you're there with I've been with my kids in service, it's a nightmare. What if you're just like, okay, listen guys, we have to stay here. Let's go get a drink over at the restaurant. Let's go get a Coke. And then let's come back and play ping pong. I mean, just another great example of something very, very easy And I think this might even be staff who's playing ping pong. So, another example of staff and customer experience that you can just elevate in the smallest of ways.
I think a lot of families would, a lot of kids would want to come to the dealership.
Yeah. I think also, I don't have this in a picture of this, but I'd love to see a picture. I believe Ed told me at one of their dealerships, they have a pump track outside and they invite people to come by with their kids to be the pump, like do their bikes on the pump track. So just all great ways to bring people to your dealership and your service department that have nothing to do with service and everything to do with being a part of the community and creating a customer experience that's really elevated above everyone else in your community.
And, so many great examples, Laurie. And I see more and more dealership groups. And, David O'Brien was talking about that on the event as well. Any thoughts about where we're going, with the future of service, to continue to better serve the guests?
Yeah. So I have a couple of different things, and this is really amazing. These are, again, just real examples of people that have what they've talked about. A lot of service departments are now putting together VIP packages that they leave in their car. And so it can be like, this one's a great example of, movie night. And so this individual dealership leaves a guest package in every car, and it's got some movies and some cute like popcorn, candy. This is an easy way you can do that. I was talking about, again, like everyone I have, like I said at the beginning of the show, everyone that I'm giving examples of is a big guest on your show. But Traction, which I know is one of the sponsors, I was talking with one of their members, and he was saying that he recently received a gift in the mail from the service department of his dealership for his anniversary. And let me be clear, it was not his anniversary of becoming a customer of the dealership. It was his wedding anniversary. So when he came in, they had gotten the date of his birthday, his wedding anniversary, and a couple of other key dates, and they send gifts in the mail. So they were surprised. And I believe he said it was, I think it was champagne flutes. But what a great idea to remember someone's wedding anniversary. And we were in a crowded room. Dan Barich was the person. We were in a crowded room, and he was explaining to us all, this had made such an impression that he was talking to 20 other people about getting this wedding anniversary gift. So like this in my mind is just another really great example of something that did not cost them a lot of money, but when they put it in his car, it was on the front seat of his car. He remembered it and spoke about it in front of a group of people. So as we're thinking through, how can we really elevate the customer experience and show them that they're important to us? What are some small ways, like the ones I've just gone through, that you can make them feel special, and it does not have to be big?
And, with the amount of money that is paid by OEMs and then by dealers,
yes,
to help retain customers or to attract, Laurie, new customers, right? Look at all the little things that we could do. And a lot of the suggestions that you're mentioning here, that makes so much sense. And, in the case of Dan Barich at Traction, probably won them over a customer for life.
Oh, 100%. Not only a customer for life, but then he's spreading the good news to all the other people in the room. A couple of things of where we're going. UVI, which I believe has also been on your show, they have scanning technology that allows, now moving on from just kind of the gifts, they have scanning technology that you can bring your vehicle in, it scans the entire vehicle, and then gives the pictures to the customer. So I think another thing that we're really seeing is transparency. How can we ensure that the customers trust that what we're saying to them actually needs to happen? And so I think as we look forward, for your attendees, it's really a matter of how can we create a transparent experience? Is that pictures? Is that a video walk around? True Video does a great video walk around. What are the areas that we can improve to really build that trust that what they're seeing is actually happening within the vehicle?
Yeah, and you touched on it just now as well. Another word that I'm hearing a whole lot of, Laurie, in our industry is transparency, being transparent for the customer. And in service and parts, transparency didn't really come up a whole lot. We started seeing that in the finance and business office maybe 5-10 years ago. I think a lot of that accelerated in the last 2.5 years with transparency. And now it's more being accepted. Well, that's coming now to service, transparency in pricing, as an example.
Yes. Yes.
to make the customer
And I
comfortable.
think that's so interesting because we really are coming to sort of the golden age of fixed ops right now, right? So I think what we've learned is inventory's low, they're fine on the sales side. So then what do you do to elevate that customer experience? And I think that's why we're seeing the importance of fixed ops after COVID. People couldn't come into the dealership. They weren't able to, the inventory woes weren't creating as much of the inventory issues, or the demand issues were there. So then we started looking into the fixed ops side, and I'm telling you, it's an idea whose time has come, because fixed ops has always been where it's at. We know that, right?
You are such a great messaging person. I don't even know what you just did, but I'm over here writing down, taking notes. You just to go back a minute or so, you said this is the golden age of fixed ops. I'm writing that down because I think
that's where the PR comes in, right?
That
PR.
is so powerful, Laurie. What you just said.
It is true. Don't you believe that it's true? I feel it. The clients I'm working, I don't only work with fixed ops. I work on the retail side. I work in fleet. I work in manufacturing. Fixed ops right now is really having a moment. And, I think all of the people that are listening, jump on it, because fixed ops right now is really key for profitability. Everything we're talking about, customer retention, customer experience, it's all focused on fixed ops right now.
Talk to me for a minute about what you do, and I know you're really busy, but you really help the messaging with a lot of businesses, a lot of folks, a lot of people I've met through the Fixed Ops Roundtable. You really help define their message, making it concise, clarifying it. Take us through a little bit about what you do, if you don't mind. I know you don't like to talk about yourself.
Into talking about my business, so yes. So we really, I think of myself as a content creator and strategist. So it's really, how can we take the content needs of these companies, whether it's a press release, social media, articles, shows like yours, speaker submissions, and clarify the message and really differentiate these companies in the marketplace, because there is a lot of companies that on the outside look like they're doing the same thing. And truthfully, what you need is to zero in on what are you doing best, and to put it back around to what we began with. That comes with, how do you best serve your clients? How do you best partner with these clients? Not a vendor, partner. And so we really work with our partners on how to best create that message and get it out into the market.
Everyone, I see Laurie work with a lot of companies, and I'm aware of some I'm not, but it's not uncommon that I will see something outside of the Fixed Ops Roundtable on another platform or another medium, and I'll look at that and I'll look at the company and I'll say to myself, Laurie Halter did that. I know she did that. She's behind that. She made that happen. And so Laurie, congratulations to you and Charisma Communications on all the success you're having. If our audience wants to reach out to you, I know you've got a dynamic podcast out there. What's the best way for people to find more?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think the best way is, my email is, on the ticker below, but also I'm very, very active in LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn under Laurie Halter. And the podcast is Careering, which is Female Leaders in Automotive. So if there's any female leaders out there that would like to be guests on the podcast, I would love to hear from you.
Great. Well, Laurie, a great honor to have you today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I invite you back. I know you got some other segments on here.
Yes.
So, and I know you're very busy. So thank you so much for all you do.
Well, never too busy for you, Ted. Thank you so much for having me on.
Right. Everybody, Laurie Halter from Charisma Communications here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
we going to do? The crew is nowhere to be found. I know what I have to do. Quick! Send a signal to the fixed ops doc. He is our only hope.
The Fixed Ops Roundtable is blessed to feature some of the very best in retail automotive, and I can think of nobody better than Michael Barich, who has joined the ranks of working and helping dealers, and he is no stranger to the Fixed Ops community. Today, he is known as the Fixed Ops Doc, and it is a great pleasure to welcome him to the event. Michael, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Michael, I tell you, I follow you on social media, and I follow your posts and the things that you do, and you've gotten a lot of attention from a lot of people, as well as a lot of respect, for the time you've put in the business and your leadership, and how you really put together and built that #1 Nissan dealer. So congratulations to you on that success and your new success now in working with other dealers.
Yeah, that's the part that's always really inspired me from the get-go, was the ability to coach, teach, and train people and watch their success as their career paths open up new doors and new positions. That's always been my favorite part of the business.
Give us a little bit of your background. How did you get into the car business? How did you start? And kind of walk us through that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So I started out as an auto parts driver, and I didn't know anything about automotive or cars or anything. And I walked into a Nissan dealer, oddly enough, and the parts manager offered me a job while I was delivering him parts. And he said, "I think you'd be a great fit for our team." And I just was upfront and honest with him and said, "Unfortunately, I don't have any parts knowledge or automotive knowledge." And he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll teach you." So 4 weeks later, I said yes, and 4 weeks later, he got fired. And so I had to learn the parts business on my own, school of hard knocks. And so that was back in the days where audio repairs required removal from the dash and send to the manufacturer. And I learned the hard way about staying organized, because I found audio units all around the parts department after he was gone that didn't have customer information attached to them. So the customer would call 2 months later and say, "Hey, is my audio unit in?" And then I'd have to kind of skirt the issue to say, I couldn't tell him what was actually happening, but the audio unit had never left the dealership. So that's how it all started. And I left, went away to college. I went to Western Illinois University and came back and got right back into the car business.
Wow. And what was the path from there? Because fixed ops director, at a large Nissan dealer, did you get a chance to spend time in service as well as parts along the way?
No, actually, my first management job was as a parts manager, and I went from parts manager to fixed ops director.
Wow. Okay.
So I never spent time per se as a service advisor or service manager, and I'm happy with the progression. I think as a fixed ops director, having the ability to speak parts is really important to like parts people. When you're talking about best reorder points or best stocking levels and phase in and phase out and all of that stuff, to a parts manager, it's a big deal. And most of the other people don't speak that language.
You're right. It is a different language. And you know what? The parts people can, as you know, they can sniff that out in about 10 seconds. They know whether you've worked in retail in parts or whether you haven't. Okay. So
Correct.
That gets the respect really, really quick. And by the way, there's a lot more recognition of that parts advisor, that parts manager today, I think, than there was even a year or 2 or 3 ago. Michael, what do you think?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, the parts manager is probably one of the most important positions in the dealership because everything revolves around production. And if you don't have parts, you can't be productive.
Wow. So what inspired you to start your own business and to go out and work with dealers? Because, you've done so well, at the retail level. There must be more to it.
Well, I had a health scare a couple of months ago, and I ended up having a blood clot that went to my brain and caused me to have a stroke.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so, the short version of a long story is I went to work on a Saturday morning. I came home. I was sitting on my back deck, and I collapsed. So I actually hit the deck. And when I did, my bull mastiff started barking uncontrollably in the house, and I recall it. So my wife came out and asked me, what am I doing laying on the floor? And so she could tell I was paralyzed at the time. The left side of my body, I couldn't move it, and the left side of my face wasn't moving. So she knew I was in trouble and called the paramedics right away.
Wow. In fact, I recall seeing that on social media.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, of course, I was telling her, don't bother, I'm fine. And I really just didn't know any better. So the paramedics got me into the ambulance, and then they asked me to touch my index finger to my nose. And so I could move the right one, no problem, but the left one, I couldn't. And I thought the paramedics were like poking fun at me. Like they had me strapped in a gurney and were joking with me. Can I get my finger to my nose? And the only way I know I wasn't strapped in is because I reached around and grabbed my left forearm and took my left finger to my nose. And they said, no, that's not going to work. So they got me to the hospital. They injected me with a medicine called TPA, and its nickname is the clot buster. And then they shipped me to another hospital that was better off to take care of me. And a neurosurgeon went in to try to remove the clot, and it was gone. Wow. So thankfully, I withstood the stroke. But when I got to my room in intensive care, one of the neurosurgeons came in to talk to me, and she was a sweet lady. And she said, you dodged a bullet. And I said, well, honestly, it's the second time I've done this. I had a heart attack 7 years ago. And so she said, well, what's causing you to be here? You're young, you're healthy, you're strong. Yeah. And I said, that's a great question, Doc. I wouldn't know. And she asked me if I worked in a stressful environment. And I said, I've been told it's a stressful environment. But it didn't seem so stressful to me because it's the only thing I've known to be able to do for the last 30 years. And so she told me to run. And for the next 4 days that I sat in the ICU, I didn't know what I was going to do, Ted. And honestly, I didn't know that I was going to run away from what I've been doing my entire life until I got home. Maybe 2 weeks after I got home, I had a conversation with my wife that I just don't feel like I'm the same guy anymore. I feel like my bandwidth has compressed a little bit. And she unfortunately agreed with me, which was very humbling in the moment. But it was right then that I figured out I need to do something different and take care of me and put my health first. Wow. So hence how Bar Automotive started. And about a year previously, I had bought the domains to Fixed Ops Doctor and FixedOpsDoc.com with the idea that I would do something with those in the future. And little did I know it would happen so quickly. So we're working on website stuff right now and hope to be able to provide my services to more people. And for me, that would be the special part. So I'm not just going to be locked down under one rooftop. I'll have the ability to reach people from coast to coast, hopefully.
Michael, I'm so sorry you had to go through all that. However, I'm very, very glad that you're going to be able to impart your knowledge and your wisdom and your coaching now with a lot more people in our industry. Talk to us about that. Where does that come from? That desire to coach and to mentor and to teach?
Well, for me, it's all about winning. Like, I'm a fiercely competitive guy, and it doesn't really matter at what level or what in particular I'm doing. I just want to win, and teaching other people the ability to win and watch them grow is what the inspiration has always been for me in my career.
Wow. Wow. And so I know you just got back from a dealership group. By the way, so when I first became a trainer, okay, if you will, I know there was a certain burst of, euphoria when I got on an airplane or a train and went from A to B, okay, to be able to work at a dealership, to work with these folks. And then, at the end of the week or at the end of the, couple days, whatever it was, to be able to go over the list of things that we're going to do together and then, be able to come back home. What was that like for you on that first visit with a dealership?
Well, it was a little nerve-wracking, to be honest. I put this all together quickly, and I just had to rely on kind of my raw bloodhound skills to point the dealer in the right direction. And I spent a couple of days identifying some areas of opportunity for that dealer, and then we just recapped it with a game plan. And I'm super excited about the visit. I think it went really well. The recipients were willing participants and listening to what the recommendations were and some of the suggestions were. And I can't wait to see how the dealer progresses between now and my next visit.
My favorite part, Michael, of going in and working with a dealership is that last day, that last big meeting when I'll typically have the dealer, GM, managers there, and I go over, like you just said, the things that we're going to do between now and X, okay, and who's going to do what. And, a lot of times that meeting, might be scheduled for a half hour, but would commonly go hour and a half, 2, 3, 4 hours sometimes. Sure. So I always thought that was the best part. And you know what? You are really the expert in coming in from out of town, because you've got, the expert pair of eyes, having seen other dealerships, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but you can instantly spot things that are just not right when you go into a store.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's no filter here. When you're the new set of eyes, in my opinion, it's easy to spot where those deficiencies are originating from. And I think when you dial that back to, it's all people and all process.
Yeah. All right. So you are now available to help other dealerships get to the next level. Are you looking to help dealerships that are good, that want to get to great? Are you looking to work with dealerships that are entirely broken and fix them? What's your most desired client, or is it all the above?
Well, I would say all of the above would be appropriate, but I would love to work with good dealers that aspire to be great. So you can't teach somebody to be competitive. Either you have it or you don't. And I think that, for me personally, because I am so competitive, I would like the ability to choose to work with people that were similar to me.
I love it. Last question, Michael. Advice from you, Michael Barich, to our audience. Here we are in middle of May, looking forward, okay? A lot of change happening now in the car business. If I'm watching you, I'm a fixed ops director, I'm a dealer, I'm a general manager, I'm a service, I'm a parts manager. What do I need to be on the lookout for right now in 2022? What should I be most concerned about? What advice would you give our audience?
That's a great question. I would first of all tell everybody to make sure that they maintain being a student. I think being a student allows you to continue to grow. And I think in this business, there's a lot of information that's shared on the daily. Look what we're doing today. And I think that for me personally, I've always aspired to be a student for 30 years. It's allowed me to continue to hone and create what I've been able to do today. And I think, as we move forward in the future, I would tell you the most important thing a dealer can pay attention to would be retaining their customers and retaining their employees. And I don't feel that there's enough emphasis on the second part of that. You have to retain your employees. And it's an ever-changing world, and I think building a team and keeping them together is what creates the successful dealers that are out there doing it.
Michael, that's a great message. And, we've heard a lot at the event so far, and we're going to hear a lot more about that dealership culture and starting inside the store. And Michael, looking back at previous years, that wasn't so much the focus, years ago, right? On the employee and on the culture, but it really is where everything starts at the dealership level.
Amen.
Love it. Michael, if our audience wants to reach out to you, I know you're on social media, but what other ways can they get a hold of you if they have questions? Maybe if they want to bounce some ideas about their dealership, their group to you.
The easiest place would be to reach me on my cell phone. It's scrolling across the bottom, but the number is 708-744-5425, and I'd be available for anybody that may have a question or an interest or whatever that may be. Feel free to get a hold of me on my cell phone.
Well, Michael, I'm going to invite you back to future events, and we want to hear how things are going for you this fall when we get back together again at the Roundtable. And I wish you the best of health. I wish you the best of success, and I know that any dealership group will have a real win when they bring Michael the fixed op stock into their store.
Well, I appreciate that, Ted, and I look forward to seeing you in the fall, buddy.
Yep. Everybody, great honor today to have Michael Barich, the fixed op stock, Bar Automotive, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Do you have a great product you want to get in front of auto dealers across the country, and specifically their fixed ops departments? You know, their service, parts, and body shop. For over 15 years, Fixed Ops Magazine has been putting service-related products like yours in front of franchise auto dealers across the country. There simply is no better way to reach every dealer in the USA all at once. Hi, I'm Ron, the publisher of Fixed Ops Magazine, which is both a digital at fixedopsmag.com and print magazine that reaches out to over 38,000 subscribers who influence what products are purchased in the over 16,000 dealers across the country. Fixed Ops Magazine may even publish your article about a topic you are an expert and have a real passion for in this industry. Every article has the author's contact info so they can reach you. Write an article, run an ad, and an e-blast. We call that our bundle for success. You won't believe how great a deal it is. So to get started, call, text, or email me and I'll tell you more. We are 100% devoted to the franchise stores so we don't waste your time or money. We are laser focused on your prospects. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today. www.fixedopsmag.com. Ron at fixedopsmag.com, 714-803-5476. Fixed Ops Magazine, the #1 way to get your product in front of auto dealers today.
Another day in the galaxy is nearly over, but our work is never done. Taking one last look, sir, at my friends. Light, darkness, a balance. We've saved the best Jedi Masters for last, and they are here to shed their lightsabers on the topic of training.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it is a very exciting time in our industry, and we have the all-star panel assembled by Fixed Ops Magazine, the authority in our industry. We have the publisher, Ron Overs. Ron, welcome back to the event.
Thank you so much, Ted.
Ron, you've got a great topic and great friends here, and I will get out of the way and let you get things started.
Sounds great, Ted. Thank you so much. You know, one of the things that we have seen over the last year is a lot of people wanting to come into dealerships and do training, right? Nothing brand new, but a lot of them think they have a brand new method of doing it or new thoughts on how to go about it. When I try to break it up into just a couple of different categories, one is there saying, listen, I can just make you more money. Just let me come in. I'll show you how to get $50,000 more revenue a month. You do the math. You're going to be wealthy. All you got to do is follow my lead and away you go. The other camp comes in and says, listen, I'm not going to make any promises to you. But the reality is, if you just do what I tell you and let me just train your people, next thing you know, you're going to be successful. You're going to have a shop that's going to do much better than any of the other ones out there today. So fun, as I mentioned, as you get older, you get maybe a little more cynical about these things and start asking a few more questions when they come and make their grand claims about training. And I thought today's panel would be kind of fun to just talk about what you've experienced in training. What's really worked well for you? If you brought in outside trainers, what have they done to really help your business? And what was their focus? Was their focus more on a process to show you a better way of doing things than you were doing today? Or just, helping you institute your own process that you have in your stores? Or was the focus was, listen, here's our most profitable jobs. We need more of these sold, and focus on certain different repair pieces that will actually, make your business money faster and growth. But let's just go right around and start with that. Tully, right next to me here, tell me about your experiences with training.
So I think training starts with this. First, is your store broken or not broken? If your store is broken, then you start kind of like 101 and you bring trainers in to kind of tell you what's going on. But I think a lot of stores are not broken. And I think that when you start your training procedures is first, you must have KPIs that you are checking with and are monitoring at all times, because that is the key. Did the training pay off or not? Is your training processes? We all understand. We all struggle with processes in the driveway. Why won't they go out and check the car in, right? Why won't they ask the customer for their email address, right? These are simple things that I don't need to pay a trainer for. But if we have processes in place and we have ways to help them succeed and make more money for them and their families, because ultimate goal is we are truly in the repeat and referral business and we sell hours, is how do we help our riders be more successful in selling those hours? And that's the key issue when you look at a store. So I say, is your processes right? If they're not, start there. 2, help your riders overcome objections in the service drive. Help them sell things that we'd sell our family members. That's where I would start first.
Makes a lot of sense, Tully. It really does. You're absolutely right. Definition first. Do you need the training? What's broke? What's not broke? How is it going to work? Sarah, I'm not skipping you. I'm going to jump over to Scott, and I'm going to come back to you toward the end there. Scott, how about yourself? What are your experiences?
I have to agree with Tully. Is the store broken or not broken? Because that's very important as to what kind of training you need. Everybody's got the next best thing, but nobody's really reinventing the wheel. And the bottom line is, if you have good processes in place or put good processes in place, or somebody can come in and train good processes, then the profits will come with that. So you can't chase the profits. You'll just never get where you need to go. And the biggest thing for me bringing a trainer in is I know what we need to do. I don't have the time to sit with everybody one-on-one all day, every day, and train them. So to bring somebody in that can do that, and not to mention they'll listen to them, where they see me and hear me every day, they're like, whatever, that guy's talking again. But you bring somebody in and they really help you with your processes. You need to have an idea of what you want already, and they need to help you implement those processes and maybe fine tune them. And that's another key thing about somebody coming in to train. Do they listen to you and what you want and where you want to go? And do they follow that? Or do they just try to do something cookie cutter, which doesn't work for anybody, really? You're just spinning your wheels there.
Absolutely. Shawn, how about yourself? What are your experiences?
Well, and I think everybody knows on the panel that I've had a good 2-3 year relationship with John Fairchild. And really, I think with trainers or outside vendors, and he hates the term, but anybody can come in and jack effective labor rate up by jacking the door rate up or flushing somebody's wallet until they're blue in the face. I think more than anything else, and really it goes back to what Tully and Scott said, and I know Ed and I work a lot together, we talk a lot, is you have to train the trainer. If the service manager himself can't train the advisors, I don't care who trains what, when they leave, it's going to stop. It is about KPIs and holding people accountable. And I think that's our biggest thing. And to Scott's point, as we grow to 20 and 23 and 24 stores, you don't have time. You don't have time to spend hours upon hours with the managers, let alone the advisors. So again, for me, It's all about training the trainers. If the trainer can't be trained, then that's your problem.
Really good point. Ed, how about yourself? Your experiences?
A lot of good stuff being brought up, but a lot of times trainers, and Shawn said, hey, you got to train the trainer because it's got to stay behind. But a lot of times when a trainer comes in, they're telling you that we got to do these things that we already knew that we should be doing. And unfortunately, we've lost sight of it because we've gotten caught up in the day-to-day activities. And as soon as they start talking about when you do this, when you do that, the light bulbs go off. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It isn't new stuff to us. It's stuff that we should have already been doing. But unfortunately, we quit paying attention to it. But ultimately, what it boils down to is anything that we pay attention to improves. And so if we set those goals to whatever they may end up being, and we stay focused on them rather than set 25 of them so that you can't focus on those 25, set the 4 or 5 that you want to focus on, and then those become a habit over time, and then set 4 or 5 new ones. You may have to come back and refresh some of them, but setting goals is really where you get the most bang for your buck from. But then also, we're never done training. So we always got to be constantly trying to improve. Like Shawn was talking about using John Fairchild. John Fairchild comes here. Well, I can learn from him. He can learn from us. It all goes back and forth, and then we can share it with our people. He can share it with his, but we're never done training.
So true. Sarah, those are good words, aren't they? They're never done training. Sounds like you got a job for a while, huh?
Yes, and it's exciting being the trainer in the training company on this panel to get the feedback from all these wonderful influencers in our automotive community. I want to share a little bit too, and this isn't specific to automotive, but touching on the points that they were mentioning. Sometimes it isn't about the trainer or the training company. It's purely about the relationship and the partnership with the person that you are working with and what you can accomplish together. And so I just want to say, for me personally, I'm an equestrian. I'm an avid horseback rider, and I'm always looking to improve. But one of the pitfalls that a lot of automotive dealers, and myself included, have sometimes fallen into is the cult of personality trainer. And so in my equestrian career, at one point, I was partnered up with somebody that was very, very reputable, had an amazing reputation, had been a winner, had done all these wonderful things in the equestrian community. But what I was finding in my own personal results with them was that I was really getting ignored. And really the goal at the end of the day for them was pure winning. They just wanted to churn out more riders that could be competitive in the competition arena, but they weren't actual horsemen. They weren't really people that understood what it meant to be an equestrian and the bond and the actual personal growth that needed to get to that winning place. And so I was really struggling at different points and not able to really figure out why until I switched to another trainer. And this trainer opened my eyes, and I really found, wow, there's a lot of pitfalls and a lot of gaps in what I thought I knew and what I needed to do to continue to grow and learn. And having that reset button, being able to come back to center, actually really develop those skills that are needed to then become a better competitor, that's made all the difference. And so my view and Quantum 5's view of my company, that's really the big key right there, is we are looking to improve the overall skills of an organization, whatever organization that we come in order to have that overall lift. And like Ed and Scott and Shawn and Tully all touched on, each store has different processes, very different goals. But it's up to us as trainers to partner with you to align that same mission and what your goals are.
Such key points made there. There's no question about it. I've been involved with auto dealers for 30 years, and to come in and train and try to get, so many times we'll come in and they'll say, well, here, we'll role play, and I'll give them a word track, or we'll talk through something, and they'll be like, well, Ron, if I could say it like that, I'd sell everybody. And it's like, yeah, but see, these are my words. You have to believe in the product you're selling. If you don't believe in front end alignments, you're not going to sell front end alignments, right? I mean, you've got to believe the product that you're selling. So much of training that I've found is, getting the core belief in what they're doing, that it's important, that it's significant, and that without this, the customer may be left high and dry out on 95, the worst possible such scenario. We want to get them in a place that they know that they're coming in for service, not just to take care of that, oh yeah, it's got 5,000 miles and I need an oil change, but that the car really, we're here to make sure that it's going to be safe and that it's going to work exactly the way you want it all the time, no matter when you're driving that car. And that's going to make such a big difference if the training can be, that focused and that specific. And I know Quantum 5, you're big on that, right? Where you do a need assessment, right? Find out where that person is rather than try to jam the same, selling scenario down, each one of your, advisors or whoever you're training. It just simply doesn't work today. They don't believe your product. They'll do it for a while, then they're going to stop. It's just that fast. So there's no question about it. Just spinning off of this just a little bit, but how is this potential part shortages that we see pretty much all over the country? How is that going to affect your training and how you actually work with your service advisors to make sure that they're communicating to their customers, hey, it may not go exactly the way you thought, but this is what we're going to experience over the next, period of time to keep your car out on the road. Tully, you mentioned a few situations you've had.
Yeah, I think that this shortage is really, a thorn in our side. But now what we need to talk about, it's not as much as about selling the product, as we all do a tremendous amount of warranty repairs. It's all about keeping the customer updated. It's talking about communication. And we all sit there and say, God, I just can't figure it out, because we don't do it, right? Are we texting? Are we calling? Are we emailing? Whatever the customer wants. It comes down to what we really are in, the customer repeat and referral business. And if we have issues where parts are going to be weeks, if not months, right? We have to make sure we keep that up all the time with the customer. And when we look at our CSI, which stands for Customer Supplies Income, because we are in the repeat referral retention program, is we must find out that first. What are we doing? What are we doing to communicate to the customer what's happening with their car via all the different options we have? And today we have so many great options, making sure that procedure happens every time in your store.
Yeah, so true. Scott, any experiences you've had with that, with part shortages and things like that, how you're handling it?
Just like Tully said, he's absolutely right. You have to maintain communication with that customer. And even if it's going to be 4 months, touch them at least once a week. Let them know you haven't forgotten about them. You're still working to get their parts in. We do everything we can on the back end with Subaru to get the part here as quickly as possible. They've been very proactive about, especially if you have one that's customer's getting a little antsy or something, they'll really jump in there and try to get it to you. We had them pull a part off the assembly line the other day and sent to us on one that we needed. So they've actually rented entire container ships to ship parts and things like that. So, but the main thing is communication with the customer. We live in a real-time world now, and they want to know everything real time. Texting is a huge thing anymore with every generation, really, and people have got to get on board with that. You also need to communicate with the customer and find out, how do you want to be communicated with? Some people still prefer a phone call. Some people email, some people text, and the majority are text anymore, but confirm that with them as well. Put it in their file so that you always try to communicate with them that way first, and then other avenues if you need to. But yeah, communication it's just critical. It is, because otherwise they're sitting at home going, man, when's my car going to be ready? Nobody wants that stress. Nobody wants that anxiety. So you got to try to alleviate that as much as you possibly can. And loan cars are another option, although our loan car fleet's down because we've had to sell some of those. But it's just a struggle all the way around. But yeah, communication is the number one thing. Keep in touch with them. Keep them up to date.
Shawn, what else can you add to this? What else?
Well, again, I can say the same thing as Tully and Scott both, and feed on it. But there's two things. It's funny, and I think I said on the last panel we were all together. 2008, for those of us that have been around a while, when they stopped selling cars and there was a car shortage, well, we were fine. Well, in 2009, we found out that there was nothing for us to service because they didn't sell any cars. Well, they ran short on cars a year ago, and now we're finally catching up on the parts. But as far as the communication side of it, CSI is a big part of it. I mean, listen, the client, it is what it is. You can communicate until you're dead, until you beat blue in the face. But 4 months out, 5-6 months waiting for a transmission, there's really no good word. And but I got to say, I've said this now for my 28 years being in the car business. I've offered this for 28 years and I haven't had to pay it yet. The first time that I have a client that says, hey, can you have Ed stop calling me so much? I'm going to give them my next paycheck. Every advisor I've hired in 28 years, I've made that bet with, and I haven't paid it yet. So to the point, you can't communicate enough, whether it's text message. And, to your point, Scott, every week, listen, I don't care if you said it every day at 2:30. Hey, listen, I haven't forgot about you. We're still waiting. Hey, I haven't forgot about you. It's better than the other phone call where, as Tully said, it's communication. We're guessing at it because we just don't do it.
Right. So Ed, do you do a lot of all your technicians are set up with texting, obviously, and they're communicating with that. Any other ways they're doing or anything innovative that they're doing to, keep the customer calm, keep them moving?
Well, like Scott said, you got to find out what's their best form of communication. And for us, we text about 95% of our customers because that is what they want to communicate with. But it works well for us that we can retain all of that. But one of the things going back to this being a part shortage is the communication really starts at time of write-up, if not sooner. If you can make it happen sooner, when they make the appointment or whatever the situation may be, great. But if your first point of contact with them is at time of write-up, that's where the communication starts. And that way you can set them up that if the vehicle is still safe to drive, that they continue to drive the vehicle after it's diagnosed. But a key element to that is time of service. If we bring them in, we write them up, and it takes a week to check it out, and then we call them, tell them to come get your vehicle, that doesn't go over too well. But so the communication starts in the beginning, and then the process carries it through. And with that, we can overcome the obstacles of the part shortages.
Very good. Sarah, with your training, obviously with all the things that you do you help them in their training of how to actually use those devices so they actually get clear messages across to people that they get?
Yes. In fact, listening to all these gentlemen, it really made my BC heart proud because communication was the big takeaway with all of the feedback that they were providing about communication being so important. I will add that one of the other components that's so important within this is to make sure that your dealership is not siloed in your communication. So one of the pitfalls that often happens with customer experience is that we all kind of treat the other department or treat the customer when there's an issue as another department's problem. So if it's parts, back order or shortage or whatever, the service department is quick to be like, well, parts, you'll have to check in with them. Or even the sales department or BDC or whoever it is. One of the big pieces with Quantum, we have leadership, we have service, we have sales, we have BDC training. One of the biggest components about it is this unified dealership approach that really looks at the customer experience from their viewpoint, which is, I don't care whose responsibility it is. You're who I'm doing business with. I don't care about the respective departments. I just want my car fixed. I just want my car, bought. I want whatever it is. That's what we have to focus on is the customer need. And so having that perception at the leadership level where all of us as a group, and that's one of the biggest pieces that I was so proud of with BDC, is that we often have to look at a customer situation and solve the problem using multiple departments. You have to collaborate together and look at it and go, all right, what's best for the customer? If I can't get the parts, well, is this a pull ahead opportunity? Is this something that the sales department, maybe we get them in a different car? Could we have an opportunity where they're happier, new warranty, new vehicle? Is there other options available from service or sales that we can try to pull into this to make the customer happy? Those are all pieces that are so important to our training, is having a unified approach that really is customer centric, but then also, like you mentioned, having those communication messages. We customize those based on what the client's needs are. So there's just a lot of different opportunities there to address the part shortages, but it all starts with your people.
Really good points. Yeah, there's no question. And, when you're saying that, I'm saying amen, because I've been through all of those as a consumer too, right? Where you're waiting on a part or you're waiting on something and I don't want to talk to three people. You want to talk to one person. You want them to do the chasing, solve the problem, make it right for you, and move forward. There's no question. All right, so now the year ahead, right? We've gone through some incredible times the last few years. If someone jumped into fixed operations the last 3 years, they say, is it always this chaotic? I mean, when is the norm that you talked about? When does that actually happen? Because you think about what we've been through, and the last 3 years have been just plain crazy with all the demands. I mean, first, everybody had masks on and we're fogging cars up to kill germs that we can't see, that we don't know what you don't know what the next thing is coming. But we kind of do have to anticipate what's coming. So as you look ahead to the year, the year 2022, the rest of the year, what do you see are the things that you have to be careful or mindful of to really get your fixed operations going in the right direction or keep going in the right direction? Tully, how about yourself?
Well, I think that when you look at the first quarter of this year, I kind of sense that this is going to be what's going to be trending for the rest of the year. So here's a couple things. First, EVs. EVs for the fixed ops department are really going to be a hard time for us. Why? Because we sell tires, tire rotations, and cabin filters, and we have a lot of very expensive products to fix inside the car. So I think that what does that mean? Every customer, every tire, every cabin filter is a must. No customer can leave the driveway saying, I'm not sure if I want to buy the tire from you or Costco. No, we have to make sure that we were 100% all in for every customer. I think too, parts department is going to be like this. I think we're going to have part shortages for a while. I just don't think this is going to get done here in the next quarter or the next, the end of this year. So we have to have a process in place, as a lot of us are already doing now, is that's going to become the new norm. I love that Sarah said, well, set it up beforehand. Talk about what's going to happen before the car arrives. Ed said, talk to them in the service drive. You realize that recall we have to inspect, and then that part might be blank. These are things that we want to train on because this is the new norm. Now, the great part about it is I see that when customers and cars are getting more advanced, I see that we're going to grow service departments. I don't think we're going backwards. I think because we realize if your store culture is repeat and referral in the retention business, we're still going to grow our stores. And that is the fun part of 2022.
Good points. Scott, how about yourself? What do you see in the year ahead?
I would agree with Tully. I think the first quarter has given us a glimpse of what's to come. And EVs, of course, are on everybody's mind. Still going to be a long time before the internal combustion engines go away and we'll get service business out of them. Right now with the current vehicle shortage, people are keeping their cars longer. So we have more business actually in service, more customer pay business, and need to be sure we're capitalizing on that. And to the point about setting the tone at the initial visit, that's critical, to let them know, yes, we're going to inspect your car. Yes, this part may have to be ordered, and they have been on back order. So don't just blast them with that after they expect to pick their car up that evening and go home with it. It may not be the case. So you got to be very transparent with them, very transparent with everything you're doing to try to get the parts here, and everything the manufacturers are doing to try to get the parts to you. But yeah, it all comes back to communication. You got to communicate with that customer. You got to be upfront with them. You can't try to hide it. But as far as EVs and everything else, just like Tully said, it's critical that we do good inspections on these cars, that we watch for ones that need tires, that we're selling everything we can on them, because there's not that much, not much to pick from on them. So maybe some wiper blades every once in a while too. But the other cars that are still coming in, the internal combustion cars, we got to really improve our MPI process and make sure we're talking to those customers. And we also got to sell the good. You can't just blast them every time they come in. Point out all the things that are good on their car, or give them an idea. Hey, this is kind of in the yellow. Maybe next visit you're going to have to think about addressing this or something like that. Build trust with them there too, so they will keep coming back to see you, and that you can keep that retention up, which is going to be critical.
Good points. Shawn, how about yourself? What do you see in the year ahead?
So in the year ahead, we still really started planning in about the end of Q2, beginning of Q3 of 2021, where our shift was, so we're at 2,000 a month business. We sell 2,000 vehicles a month, it seems, month in, month out, where we were selling 1,400 new and 600 used. That has completely switched now, where we're selling 600 new and 1,400 used. So we weren't marketing well to used, and I'm no different than any other service department. Our retention on used is horrid. It's half of what the new is. So we've really started focusing on Q1 on the marketing and the advertising for used cars. And as everybody knows, it's been pretty publicized. We bought 3 Mighty Auto Parts franchises. the purpose was going into the fact that we knew used cars were going to be part of it. And when a Honda comes across one of my Stellantis stores, I don't have to call AutoZone. I can call myself. So our complete focus really started the end of Q2 of 2021, Q3, Q4, and we're actually reaping the benefits from it. We had a meeting this morning. I mean, our Mighty side of it has done very well and is aggressively growing well because of our internal used cars, which is what we're selling more of. And if the used cars go away, we're in real trouble a year from now.
Really good points. Ed, how about yourself? What do you see ahead?
Well, it's a lot of what we talked about, but I'm going to tie it together with a few different angles.
Sure.
Forever, new cars has been the face of our dealerships. They are not the face of our dealerships anymore. Used cars is the face of our dealership, so that's multi-brands. And we have to focus on the recon of those vehicles and making sure that we're putting the best product out there possible, and not just our brand. It's every brand that we sell. And it's also an opportunity for us to, so we all had to shift to being a used car store, and we have to make that our primary focus. But it's also our opportunity to really embrace the fixed ops department like it's never been embraced before, because the demand is here and the supply is here. So there's as much out there as we want, and we can't just go through the motions and say, okay, we can't get that part. We're not going to be able to make that happen. We got to find resources. We got to find used parts. We got to do whatever we can to keep these cars on the road, because cars are consumables and they are being consumed at a rate faster than being replaced. And so we have to extend that period out on these vehicles, and we got to find ways to do that with or without parts. And then the aftermarket has always came in on something that we've lacked in. They've always filled the voids that we didn't do a good job of taking and making things happen with. Well, with EVs coming, it's our opportunity to get ahead of the aftermarket, because we have all the training up front. So we have our opportunity to be out in front of everybody with EVs. And so for us, I look forward to what's coming. We can still be a strong used car store even after inventory comes back. As we build our service departments, we can continue to really drive things home as things come back into place. And then we can own the market with EV if we put the infrastructure in place now rather than later. And I know Shawn and his guys are doing that, and Tully and his guys. I'm sure Scott is as well. That's our opportunity to get out in front.
Really good points. You know, you see that. So many people are out there right now saying we got to sell tires, right? Now, how many used cars come with brand new tires? Not many of them, right? Right.
All the certified ones, right?
They're half worn out already, right? So, I mean, the good news is to bring it to their attention. Great news is, you know, your used car is in great shape. It's got 5:30 seconds. At 3:30 seconds, okay, we have a decision to make. So let's get started on it today, so you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. You know? Used cars come back for service a lot faster than a new car does.
Yeah. You know, my son who works for General Motors was telling me, he said, you know, they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of deciding what kind of tires to put on those cars. And then some guy's going to run down to Costco and buy a tire. You know, be the pro and tell them, look, let me show you how we get the original equipment tire that makes sense for this vehicle back on your car, so it stops properly, that it handles well in the rain, not something that's maybe $50 cheaper that ends up, you know, in the curb, you know, rather than stopping properly. You know, it doesn't take a lot to sell the right tire to that person once they understand the perspective on that.
Exactly.
Great. Hey, Ted.
Lots of notes on this panel. In particular, a lot of the training comments that Sarah shared with the group, really, really relevant. And Ed, to bring it home, what you just said about the face of our dealerships changing, right? It has changed. It is. We have to recognize that, and you're addressing it head on. And so, you know, both used, reconditioning, and fixed ops, and we're in the right space. So love it. Ron, great job.
Hey, thanks for putting me around smart people. It works really well. You know, it's great to do.
I think they gravitate to you, Ron. And Ron, I heard a couple potential topics here for the next issue of Fixed Ops Magazine. Tell us a little bit more about what you got going on there at Fixed Ops Magazine, and if there happens to be somebody who does not get it, how they can go ahead and subscribe.
If you don't get this free magazine, okay, you're either not a car nerd, okay, which means, you know, you got to get a new hobby, because, you know, bottom line is Fixed Ops Magazine is just a great source to really, really just find out what's going on in service departments today. This next issue here that we got coming out right about this time is on parts, right? Because I mean, what a topic today, right, for that. And talking about dealerships that have excelled in having the right parts available so service can actually get done. But we got I think 30 articles that we boil down to 10 for this next issue. So we find the best of the best articles and say, guys, read these. It takes 5 minutes to read an article. We try to keep them at 1,000 words so that you can read these things, that they got pictures and graphics so you'll follow along, so at the end of it, you can say, aha, there's an aha moment in there, that says, okay, now I get it. Now that's something I can apply to my business. So yeah, the next issue, it's parts focused. And we really try to just take the best, and many of you have contributed, and I really appreciate that, to just stories that really say, is there a better way of doing it than I'm doing it today? And if there is, why am I doing it the way I'm doing it? Let's fix it. Let's change it. Let's make it better. And we go. So thank you for all your contributions. The magazine is a blast. I really enjoy doing it. And, we've got a lot of new things coming out. So it's going to be an exciting year ahead.
And Ron, it's online as well at fixedopsmag.com, scrolling in the ticker. And if you have an idea for an article, you can reach Ron at fixedopsmag.com. And again, he picks the best of the best, but we're looking for new ideas constantly. So
absolutely. Always looking for new ones. Thank you, Ted.
Yeah, want to thank everybody. Ron Over's the publisher at Fixed Ops Magazine. Our good friends, Ed Roberts. Ed, thank you so much for everything you do for the industry. Sarah Vantine, great stuff, great content.
Absolutely.
Keep it coming. Shawn Kingery, again, amazing information. So, Shawn, thank you for being much more involved with this roundtable than in past ones. And Scott Gregg, same with you. Wow, great stuff coming out of you. And I don't know what to say, Ron, but I think if you put up a poll on LinkedIn, maybe someday in the future, on maybe who should be on the next cover, and put some of the folks from this panel, it would be tough to share that vote. But I know that Tully Williams is very worthy of the cover of the magazine. So maybe at some point someday. And Tully, thank you for all you do for the industry. Love it.
Thanks, Tully.
Ron Overs and the panel with Fixed Ops Magazine here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted.
What an incredible 3 days our galaxy has gathered for. All good things must come to an end, but first, we'd like to invite all of our Jedi Masters, Stormtroopers, and Wookiees alike to take out your communication devices and vote for your top 5 presenters. And thank you for joining us. Go forth in peace, and may the F.O.R.T be with you.